It's funny, the first night on a new job always feels heavier than it should. I keep telling myself that. My uniform felt stiff, the flashlight cold in my hand, and the security badge pinched the skin above my heart. I wasn't supposed to be afraid. This was a routine gig, just an empty office building after hours. But when I stepped into that lobby, with the humming fluorescent lights overhead and the faint smell of disinfectant, I felt a weight pressing down on me. Not physical, something else, like the air itself was watching. I remember the elevator doors closing behind me and the faint click echoing through the marble floor. Each step I took along the hall seemed louder than it should have been. I kept my eyes on the security monitors in the small control room. Rows of grainy black and white screens showed empty hallways, deserted offices, and flickering exit signs. I tried to laugh it off, muttering to myself that it was just nerves, that this was all routine. But when I glanced at one screen, I swore I saw a shadow move across the far end of the lobby. Slow, deliberate, almost human. But it disappeared the second I blinked. I shook my head. "Get a grip," I whispered. My voice sounded foreign in the emptiness. The first hour was uneventful. I walked the floors, checked the doors, logged the entries. Every now and then, the creak of the ceiling tiles above me made me startle. I told myself it was the building settling, that old structures did that, but even as I said it, my stomach knotted. There was a rhythm to the silence, a cadence I couldn't place, and I kept feeling that I wasn't alone. I stopped near the break room to jot down notes. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting long shadows across the empty chairs. That's when I heard it, the faintest tap, like someone drumming their fingers on the far wall. I froze. My pen hovered above the notebook. Tap, tap, tap. I wanted to tell myself it was a pipe, the air conditioning, anything. But the rhythm was too irregular, too deliberate. And then it stopped. Silence again. I waited, straining to hear, but nothing. I shook my head and kept walking, trying to convince myself that my imagination was running wild. The hallway outside the break room seemed longer than it had when I first came in. The lights flickered slightly, and for a second I thought I saw movement in the reflection of the glass doors. I spun around. Nothing. I tried calling the front desk from my radio. No response. I pressed the button again. Silence. Not even static. I frowned. I should have been able to hear someone. Usually there's a hum, the faint chatter of the overnight staff. But tonight, nothing. I started my patrol on the second floor. The carpet muffled my steps, and the walls seemed to close in the further I went. I kept telling myself it was all in my head. But then I heard it again. Soft footsteps echoing behind me. Slow, careful, matching my pace. I stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I held my flashlight out, swinging it down the hallway. "Empty! Hello?" I called, my voice breaking slightly. Only the echo replied. I started walking again, faster this time, heart hammering. The footsteps followed. I could feel them. I could almost hear a pattern, like they were learning me, tracking me. Every time I paused, they paused. Every time I moved, they moved. I rounded the corner near the executive offices, and I swear I saw a figure out of the corner of my eye. Just a glimpse. A silhouette standing still, watching. I blinked. Gone. I leaned against the wall, trying to steady myself. I could feel the adrenaline pulsing through me. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was just an office building, empty, safe. I returned to the control room, hands shaking as I tried to focus on the monitors. Every hallway was empty. Every office dark. Nothing. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, was still there, watching. Waiting. Then I heard it clearly. A soft whisper, barely audible from somewhere deep in the building. My name. I froze. The air seemed to thicken around me. I turned slowly, flashlight sweeping the room. Empty. The whisper came again, closer this time. My own name, dragged out, distorted, almost mocking. I stumbled backward, my back hitting the edge of the control desk. I gripped the radio, pressing the button frantically. "Hello? Anyone?" Only static. Only silence. I thought about leaving. I wanted to leave. But my feet were rooted, my body refusing to move. I kept thinking that if I ran, it would follow me, and maybe it was already too close. I sat down in the chair, trying to calm myself. My eyes kept flicking to the monitors. And then I saw it. A shadow moving across the hallway on screen. Not a glitch, not a trick of the light, real. And it wasn't walking. It glided, silent, unnatural. I leaned forward, heart racing. It stopped. Faceless, featureless, just a dark shape. And then it looked straight at me, or so it felt, and disappeared. I don't remember much after that. I walked the floors, flashlight trembling, ears straining. Every creak, every whisper, every subtle shift in the building's shadows made me jump. My hands were raw from gripping the radio. I didn't see anyone, but I felt watched. Constantly. By midnight, I was exhausted, but I couldn't rest. I kept patrolling, forced myself to check doors, to walk the same routes I'd memorized during training. I tried to keep my mind rational, old pipes, drafts, my imagination. But rational thoughts didn't keep me from hearing footsteps behind me when I was alone in a room. Rational thoughts didn't keep the feeling of eyes boring into my back. Rational thoughts didn't stop the whispers. Near the stairwell, I paused to catch my breath. I leaned against the wall and looked down at the dimly lit lower floors. I could have sworn I saw someone standing at the edge of the lobby, just a shape watching me. I squinted. Gone, I whispered to myself, trying to sound braver than I felt. It's just a first night. First night jitters. But the words felt hollow. My body was on edge. My senses heightened. And I couldn't shake the feeling that I was no longer alone in the building. I finished the patrol mechanically, moving from floor to floor, logging each door. I avoided the long hallways when I could, kept the lights of my flashlight moving constantly, as if by refusing to hold still, I could escape the attention I could feel crawling along my skin. Hours passed, or maybe minutes, I couldn't tell. Time felt broken, distorted. Every turn of a corner, every swing of the flashlight, I felt it watching. Always just out of reach, always patient, always waiting. Finally, I returned to the control room before dawn, shaking and drained. I sat in the chair staring at the monitors. Everything was quiet. No shadows, no whispers, no footsteps. The building seemed empty again, but I knew better. I knew something had been following me, watching me, waiting for me to let my guard down, and I didn't know if I was ready to face it again. The first night on patrol was over, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave. I kept thinking I'd hear it behind me the moment I closed my eyes, and in the back of my mind, I knew it wasn't just nerves, I wasn't alone, and somehow I already knew that was just the beginning. I thought the first night had been bad. I was wrong. The second night started differently. I arrived early, telling myself that preparation was everything. I checked the radios, tested the cameras, walked the empty corridors under the harsh fluorescent lights that hummed like a low, impatient growl. Everything was routine, or at least it should have been. I took the same route I had the night before. Floor by floor, door by door, light swinging steadily in my hand. But almost immediately the feeling returned. That weight in the air, like the building itself was breathing around me, watching. I told myself I was paranoid, that last night's adrenaline had simply left a scar in my mind. I was on the third floor when it began. Footsteps, slow, echoing faintly down the hallway behind me. I stopped, straining to hear. Nothing else, just those footsteps in rhythm with mine. I spun, flashlight sweeping. Empty. Hello? My voice sounded hollow, swallowed by the empty hall. No answer. I walked faster, trying to convince myself it was the sound of my own steps echoing strangely in the old carpet. But I knew it wasn't. It was deliberate. Someone, or something, was following me. I reached the corner near the conference rooms and froze. There, just at the edge of the flashlight's beam, a shadow moved. Not like the shadow of a person, but heavier, darker. It slid along the wall. My stomach churned. I blinked. Gone. I forced myself to continue. I told myself I was imagining things, that the cameras would show nothing unusual. I returned to the control room, checked the monitors. The grainy black and white screens flickered, showing empty hallways. But then, just for a second, I saw it. A figure, dark and featureless, standing at the far end of a corridor. It didn't move at first, just watched, and then it vanished. I slammed my notebook shut. My heart thudded in my chest. The rational part of my brain whispered that it could be a trick of the light, a shadow caught in the grainy feed. But every instinct screamed otherwise. I grabbed the radio. Front desk, do you copy? Silence. I pressed again. Static. Nothing. I left the control room, flashlight cutting a narrow path through the darkness. Every step echoed. Every creak, every hum made me jump. I turned corners slowly, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever was following me, and then I heard it. A whisper. Not words, just a sound. Low, distorted, almost mechanical. I froze. My flashlight flicked down the hallway. Empty. The whisper repeated. Closer this time. I could feel it brushing against the edges of my mind. I rounded a corner and came face to face with nothing, but I could feel it. There, in the silence, something pressing just beyond sight. The hairs on my neck stood on end. I told myself to breathe. In, out, in, out. I moved again, faster now, walking the corridors in loops, checking doors I had already checked. Every time I glanced at a monitor, I half expected to see a figure materialize behind me, and sometimes I thought I did. Just a flicker, a shadow at the edge of the screen, gone when I looked directly. I reached the stairwell and paused. I thought I heard a door slam far below, a noise too loud for an empty building. My flashlight flicked down, illuminating the steps. Empty. I descended slowly, trying to steady my breathing. Halfway down, I froze. A movement, slow, deliberate, at the edge of my vision. I swung the light. Nothing. I told myself I was exhausted, that fatigue was making my eyes play tricks. I reached the ground floor and began my patrol there. Every doorway was shut, every hallway silent. But I felt it, behind me, always behind me. The sound of footsteps that matched my pace, fading when I stopped, resuming when I walked. I tried calling again, radio pressed to my mouth. Nothing. Not even static. The silence was worse than the noises because it was patient, like it was waiting. I turned a corner near the loading docks and stopped. There it was, on the monitor on the screen in front of me. A dark shape gliding across the hallway. Not walking, not running, just floating. Moving like a shadow without mass. It paused, and for a heartbeat I swore it looked directly at me. Then it vanished. I ran the rest of the floor, checking every office, every storage room, every dark corner. But I found nothing. Only the lingering weight of its presence, pressing against me, suffocating. Back in the control room, I tried to focus. Maybe if I stayed here, monitored the cameras, I could keep track of it. But it didn't appear. The screens showed only empty hulls. I sank into the chair, heart racing, hands trembling. The whispering started again, faint, almost at the edge of hearing. I tilted my head, straining. It sounded like a voice, broken, distorted, but I couldn't make out words. And then it stopped. Silence. I checked the cameras again, and that's when I saw it. Not on the screens I was monitoring, but on the ones I rarely used. A hallway I hadn't checked in hours, and there it was, standing at the far end, featureless, dark, watching. And then it moved. It slid down the corridor, silently, smoothly, like smoke. I pressed the zoom on the camera, trying to get a better view. The figure didn't walk, didn't shift, it just flowed. And it wasn't alone. As I zoomed, I saw glimpses of others, shadows that didn't belong, fleeting, vanishing before I could focus. I slammed my fist on the desk. My mind screamed. These weren't mistakes. These weren't glitches. Something was here, watching me, following me, waiting. I grabbed the flashlight again, heart pounding, and walked the hallway that the cameras had shown. Floorboards creaked, shadows twisted unnaturally. I kept scanning, moving, never stopping. At one point, I glanced into a side office. I swear I saw a figure standing in the corner. A man, maybe, or something pretending to be human. I blinked. Gone. Every shadow seemed alive, stretching toward me, moving just beyond my peripheral vision. I tried to tell myself it was fatigue, stress, paranoia, but I knew better. I could feel it. Always just behind, never showing itself fully. Just enough to remind me I wasn't alone. I returned to the control room, gasping for air. My hands shook as I wiped sweat from my brow. I looked at the monitors. Nothing. Empty halls, quiet, routine, and yet I could still hear the footsteps. Faint behind the walls following me, I sat down, gripping the desk edge, trying to think. Trying to rationalize, but the rational thoughts fled. Every instinct screamed the same thing. Don't stop. Don't turn around. Keep moving. Hours passed. I walked the same routes again and again, checking the doors, checking the monitors, listening to the silence that felt alive. Every so often, a flicker on a camera, a shadow just out of place, a doorway that seemed darker than it should be. But when I went to check, nothing. By dawn, I was exhausted, shaking, my uniform damp with sweat. I slumped into the chair in the control room, staring at the screens. Everything was empty. The building was silent, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that it hadn't left. That the shadows, the shapes, the footsteps, they were still here, watching, waiting. The second night was over. The monitors showed nothing unusual. But I knew the truth. Something was in the building with me. And it wasn't human. I almost didn't come back for the third night. I sat in my car outside the building for a long time, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The sun had gone down behind the glass towers, leaving the sky a flat, heavy gray. I stared at the office building, the one I was supposed to protect, and tried to convince myself that it was just a building. 4 walls, windows, fluorescent lights. Nothing more. But it didn't feel like nothing. It felt like a trap. I told myself the job was too important to quit, that my imagination had gotten the best of me, that if I went in tonight and kept my cool, I'd prove to myself that nothing was wrong. But as I stepped into the lobby, the weight returned. That same heavy silence, like the building had been waiting for me. The elevator hummed as I rode it up to the control room. The hum was different now. It wasn't a sound so much as a vibration I could feel in my chest. I kept swallowing hard, my throat dry. When the doors opened, the hallways stretched out like they'd grown overnight. Shadows pooled in the corners. My flashlight beam trembled across the floor. I made my way to the control room, shut the door behind me, and took a long look at the monitors. All empty, all still, but the stillness felt wrong, like the quiet you get just before a storm breaks. I checked the radios next. All 3 of them were lined up on the desk, their little green lights glowing faintly. I tested the first one. Front desk, copy? Static. I tried the second. Maintenance, you there? Static. The third. Anyone on shift tonight? Static. I pressed the button longer, hoping for even a crackle of a voice. Nothing. Just a hiss that sounded too much like breathing. I sat back in the chair, staring at the screens, feeling the panic creep up my spine. I wasn't just alone in the building. I was cut off. The first hour passed slowly. I forced myself to do the rounds. The same hallways, the same doors, the same flickering exit signs. My flashlight cut through the dark like a blade. But every time I turned a corner, I expected to see it. The shadow, the figure, whatever it was. And then, as I passed the stairwell on the second floor, my radio hissed. Not static, something else. A voice, broken, distorted. Don't! Stay! Leave! I froze. The radio was still clipped to my belt. My hands trembled as I unhooked it and held it up. Hello, who is this? No answer. Just that hiss and a low garbled murmur like someone trying to talk underwater. I swallowed hard. Say again? For a moment, nothing. Then a whisper, clearer this time. Behind. I spun around, flashlight beam slicing the stairwell. Empty. I pressed the button. Who is this? My voice cracked. Silence. I backed away from the stairwell, keeping the flashlight pointed down the hall. The radio stayed in my hand, heavy, alien. I walked faster now, my footsteps echoing. I told myself it was a prank, someone messing with the frequency, maybe another guard I didn't know. But deep down, I knew the truth. By the time I reached the 3rd floor, the radio hissed again. Louder this time, and the voice came back, splintered, almost like a child's but dragged through static. Don't look. Don't look! I clenched my jaw. If this is some kind of joke, it's not funny, I said, my voice shaking. The hiss faded. I ducked into the control room again and checked the monitors. Empty hallways, dark corners, but one screen flickered. Just for a second, I thought I saw movement. A figure sliding past the camera. I blinked and leaned closer. Gone. I tried the radio again. Anyone? Maintenance? Front desk? Nothing. The air in the control room felt thicker now, heavy and warm. I wiped sweat from my neck. The building was too quiet. No hum of ventilation, no creak of pipes. just a silence so deep it pressed against my ears. I forced myself to continue the patrol. The fourth floor was worse. The carpet muffled my steps until I couldn't tell if I was walking or floating. Every door I passed seemed slightly ajar. I shut them one by one, my hand trembling on each handle. Halfway down the hall, the radio crackled again. This time, the voice was sharp, urgent. "Leave now. Not safe." I stopped. "Who is this?" No reply, just breathing. Slow, ragged breathing. I swung the flashlight behind me. Nothing. I pressed the radio button again, my thumb slick with sweat. "If you're on the premises, identify yourself." Silence. I stood there for a long time, the beam of my flashlight shaking against the far wall. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. Finally, I moved on, my ears straining for the slightest sound. That's when I noticed the offices. The ones I'd passed earlier, their lights were on now. Not bright, but a dim, unnatural glow spilling through the frosted glass. I crept closer, each step deliberate. The glow pulsed faintly like breathing. I reached for the door handle and paused. My hand hovered there, trembling. Every part of me screamed not to open it. But before I could decide, the radio hissed again. A single word, sharp like a command. "Run!" I yanked my hand back, stumbling. The light behind the glass flickered and went out. Total darkness again. I backed away slowly, my flashlight beam quivering. I don't know how long I wandered after that. Minutes, hours. The building had become a maze. Every hallway looked the same. The clocks had stopped working. My watch ticked but didn't move. The radio stayed alive with whispers. Sometimes it said my name, dragging it out in a hiss of static. Sometimes it gave fragments of words I couldn't understand. Sometimes it just breathed. I tried to call for help again. "Front desk, please respond." Nothing. "Anyone, please." Nothing. At some point, I realized I hadn't seen another person all night. No janitors, no coworkers, no one. I returned to the control room, desperate to see something, anything on the monitors. Most of them showed only empty halls, but one screen flickered, grainy and unstable. The feed from the lobby. There was someone there. At first, it looked like a man, tall, standing near the entrance. But the longer I stared, the more wrong it looked. Too still, too dark. The edges of its body wavered like smoke. I leaned closer. The figure tilted its head slowly, as if it knew I was watching. Then the screen went black. The radio hissed again, louder than ever. A chorus of voices now, overlapping, breaking apart, weaving in and out of static. My name, over and over. And then, clear as a bell, a single word, A. Stay. I dropped the radio. It hit the floor and the voices cut off. The silence was worse. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't leave. The elevators weren't working. The stairwell doors were locked from the inside. I was trapped. I sat down, gripping the edge of the desk until my nails dug into the wood. My eyes darted across the monitors. Nothing, nothing, nothing. But I could feel it. In the hallways, in the walls, watching. And for the first time since I started this job, I wasn't sure I would make it until morning. I shouldn't have gone back. I knew it before I even turned the key in the lock. My hands were still shaking from the third night, my body screaming to run. But I told myself it would be different, that I could handle it, that it was just a building and nothing had actually happened. I was wrong. The lobby greeted me with the same sterile, humming lights. The air smelled faintly of dust and disinfectant. Normal, safe, except it wasn't. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it, the weight again, thicker than ever, pressing down from the ceiling, curling around my spine, hiding in the corners. I swallowed hard. My flashlight felt cold and heavy in my hand. The first rounds were routine, floor by floor, door by door. But the radio, my only tether, was dead. Nothing, not even static. I pressed buttons, shook it, even tried the backup batteries. Silence. I could feel the static lingering in my mind, like a phantom echo, but the device was completely dead. I should have panicked then. I should have run, but something in the building held me in place. I felt drawn deeper, down the same hallways, past the same doors I had checked 100 times before. By the second floor, the shadows were different. They weren't just on the walls. They moved independently. At first, subtle, a flicker in the corner of my eye. Then, closer, stretching, reaching for the edges of the light. I swung my flashlight and they vanished. Every time. Always gone when I looked directly, but somehow present everywhere I turned. I tried the cameras in the control room. Most of them flickered. Grainy black and white feeds swirled with static until, for just a second, I caught a glimpse of something standing behind me. I spun around. Empty hallway, and yet I felt it, watching, waiting. The whispers returned. Not over the radio this time. Not from a device I could control. They came from the walls, from the air, from the floorboards. My own name repeated softly, dragging across my ears, slipping under my skin. Stay, stay, stay. I ran. My flashlight beam cut frantically through the hallways. I tried doors, locked, stuck. Even the ones I had opened before refused me now, and then I heard it, a sound I will never forget. My own voice, coming from the radio I had dropped last night. It called my name, but slower. Wrong, twisted. A shadow of me, pleading, crying. I dropped the flashlight. My hands flew to my ears, but the sound pierced anyway, threading through my skull, rooting me to the floor. I stumbled back toward the control room, desperate for the monitors. Maybe I could see it. Maybe I could understand it. But the screens were dead. Static, dark, silent. And that's when the messages started appearing. First, small words typed across the screens. Don't look. I blinked. I hadn't touched anything. My hands were shaking. I reached for the keyboard, but nothing happened. The words remained. And then more appeared. Leave now. I ran out of the chair, feeling the building shift around me. Hallways stretched impossibly long. Doors led to places I had never seen. Stairwells twisted like corkscrews. I ran blindly, my pulse pounding, my lungs burning. Every time I turned a corner, a shadow flickered just beyond my vision. Sometimes I thought I saw faces, featureless, staring at me, mouthing words I couldn't hear. Other times, the darkness moved like water, flowing toward me, pooling at my feet. I tried to call for help. My own phone, left in the locker, was gone. My radio, my only other line to the world, was dead. And the whispers, relentless now, surrounding me, pressing in. Stay, stay, stay. I tripped into a side office. The door slammed behind me. I pounded on it, but it wouldn't open. The fluorescent lights flickered. My flashlight lay on the floor, beam weak, shaking. I pressed my hands to my ears, trying to block out the whispers, trying to force rational thoughts into my mind. But the building didn't want rational. It didn't want me to think. It wanted me to see, to hear, to feel. And then the monitors came alive again. This time, they weren't showing hallways or doors. They were showing me. Everywhere I turned, the screens displayed a live feed of my movements. My body slumped, my hands trembling, my eyes wide with fear. And always in the corner, a shadow, watching, waiting. I backed into the corner of the room. The shadows moved closer, and for the first time I could see them clearly. Faceless, featureless, darkness that shouldn't exist in a world of walls and ceilings. They slid, they flowed, they breathed. And they weren't just outside the monitors. They were inside the room with me. I screamed. My voice echoed off the walls, swallowed by the darkness. I ran, stumbled, collided with desks and chairs. The building seemed alive now, walls contracting, floors shifting beneath my feet. And then I noticed it. The monitors, all of them one by one, displayed words. Messages typed across the grainy screens. Not random, not meaningless. You can't escape. Stay with us. Always watching. I felt cold seep into my bones. My legs refused to carry me any further. I sank to the floor, clutching my head, rocking back and forth. Then, silence. I dared to lift my head. The shadows had receded. The monitors were blank. The air was still. For a moment I felt relief, but it didn't last. I heard the whisper again. My own voice, calling me from somewhere behind me. Slow, deliberate, wrong, twisted. I turned, nothing. And then I felt it. A hand. Not real, not physical, but pressing against my mind. Pulling. I screamed and bolted, moving faster than I knew I could. The hallways stretched endlessly, doors leading nowhere, stairwells spiraling into black. I ran blindly, driven by pure terror, and that's when I realized I wasn't running in the building. I was running in the monitors. Every camera feed now displayed my movements, but from angles I couldn't reach. I was trapped inside them. The whispers grew louder, overlapping voices now, calling my name, twisting my thoughts. I tried to speak, tried to call out. My voice wouldn't come. Then one of the screens blinked. A single message, stark, white against the static, "You are next." I fell to my knees, my body shaking uncontrollably. The shadows closed in, faceless, flowing, merging with the darkness of the room. My eyes darted to the monitors. My own image stared back at me, pale, terrified. But it wasn't moving like I was. It was waiting, watching, smiling. I screamed again, and then everything went black. The next morning, the building was quiet. The security desk was empty. My radio lay on the floor, dead, static-free. The monitors displayed nothing but empty hallways, just as they had before. But the logs told a different story. The cameras captured me walking the halls for hours, alone, or so it seemed, until the last clip. The one saved in the system automatically, I wasn't there. Only a shadow remained, standing at the edge of the lobby, faceless, waiting, and the monitors blinked one final message before the system shut itself down. "See you soon." I never thought much about the old office building. It was just another job, another night shift. Janitorial work isn't glamorous, but it pays. And I like the quiet. Most nights the building is silent. Even when the lights flicker, I convince myself it's just the wiring. That night, though, that night changed everything. I was finishing the 4th floor, mopping the corridors where the fluorescent lights buzzed and hissed above me. My cart squeaked, echoing in the empty hallways. That was when I noticed it, an old key, tarnished and cold, half hidden behind a dusty radiator. I didn't know why it caught my eye. It looked ancient, the kind of key that belonged in a storybook, not in a forgotten office building. I picked it up, weighing it in my hand. Heavy, solid. I couldn't place it, didn't know what it unlocked. Something about it made my skin crawl, but not in the usual "I'm scared" way, more like a warning. I shoved it into my pocket, thinking I'd figure it out later. I didn't tell anyone. Who would believe me? The building had been empty for years at night. Back in the storage room, I kept the key in my palm, turning it over, feeling the grooves, imagining the lock it might belong to. I tried to shrug it off. Keys get lost. Keys turn indoors, but this felt different. I went about my rounds, sweeping and dusting, pretending it was just another night. But every so often I'd catch a flicker at the corner of my eye, a shadow that didn't belong. The overhead lights made long, crooked shapes across the walls, stretching like fingers. I told myself it was just fatigue. I'd been working nights for years. I should be used to it. Then I remembered the basement. No one went down there. Management always said it was sealed, condemned even. The stairwell doors were rusted shut, warning signs taped to the walls. "Do not enter. Authorized personnel only." But tonight, I felt drawn to it. That key burned in my pocket, urging me. I tried to ignore it. I paused in front of the basement door, my hand on the handle. It was cold metal against my palm. The key in my pocket felt heavier. I couldn't explain why, but I slid it out, holding it against the lock. It fit, too perfectly. My breath hitched. The lock clicked, soft and hollow. I froze. My chest thumped so hard I thought it might shatter my ribs. I shouldn't have turned the handle. I knew it. Every instinct screamed at me to stop. But curiosity, that terrible, irresistible curiosity, pushed me. I turned the knob. The door opened with a groan, the hinges whining like they were in pain. A foul, damp smell rolled up the stairs. Dust, mold, rot. My stomach turned. The basement stretched before me, dark and endless, the light from above barely reaching the first step. My flashlight shook in my hand. I hadn't planned to go down. I just wanted to look. One step, then another. The old concrete stairs crumbled beneath my feet, small pieces breaking and scattering in the darkness. I remember thinking, this is a mistake. But the key, it called to me and I followed. The basement was enormous. Shelves lined the walls, empty, covered in decades of dust. The air was thick, almost liquid, making it hard to breathe. My flashlight beam danced across broken furniture, overturned chairs, and long-forgotten filing cabinets. Everything looked abandoned, forgotten yet somehow alive. Shadows clung to corners, stretching impossibly, like they were waiting. I walked slowly, trying not to make a sound. My reflection in a cracked mirror made me jump. I looked pale, hollow-eyed, hair sticking up. But that wasn't what startled me. It was the silence. Not the kind of quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat. This was wrong, heavy, pressing against my ears. Then I saw it. A small old table against the far wall, and on it, something moved. Just a flicker at first, a shadow shifting. I blinked, nothing. My flashlight didn't catch it. Maybe it was just my eyes adjusting. I told myself to leave. Turn around. Go back upstairs. The door would still be open. But my feet didn't obey. They carried me closer. On the table, I found an envelope. Yellowed with age, corners brittle. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a photograph. Black and white. A family decades old. But their faces, they were wrong. Not just old photographs wrong. Stretched, blurred, as if the smiles were painted on. Eyes too large, too dark. Something about them made my stomach twist. I dropped it, heart pounding. The paper hit the floor with a soft whisper, and I swore I heard a laugh. A soft, hollow, breathy laugh, like air escaping a long tunnel. I ran to the door. My flashlight caught movement at the edge of my vision. A shadow just out of focus, flitting along the wall. My hand shook as I reached for the handle. The door was locked. Not by the key. Something had changed. Panic rose. My mind raced. This is impossible. The key unlocked it. I saw it. It opened. What the hell? I pulled at the handle. Nothing. The door wouldn't budge. And then I heard it. A scraping sound. Soft, slow, like claws across concrete. Coming from deep inside the basement, I pressed myself against the door, listening. My breath came in shallow gasps. The sound stopped. Then, after a heartbeat, a whisper. "Don't leave." I froze. My blood turned to ice. The voice wasn't human. Low, hollow, distant, but somehow inside my skull. I pressed my palms to my ears, but it was still there. "Don't leave." I stumbled backward, tripping over the bottom step. My flashlight skittered across the floor, casting the ceiling in jagged shadows. I scrambled for the stairs. My hand found the handle again. I yanked, prayed, cussed under my breath. The door opened this time, and I bolted, nearly falling on the steps. Once I reached the main floor, I slammed the door behind me. Heart hammering, chest aching, sweat stinging my eyes. I shoved the key into my pocket, trying to convince myself it was just an old key, nothing more. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I cleaned the upper floors in a daze. Every shadow, every flicker of light made me jump. Every sound echoed like footsteps behind me. When the sun rose, I left the building, refusing to look back. That key. I couldn't throw it away. Not yet. Something about it. It was waiting. I didn't know for what or who, but I could feel it in my bones, under my skin. It was alive. I went home, tried to sleep. Tried to drink, tried to distract myself, but in the quiet of my apartment, I could still hear it. The whispering. Not words, exactly, just voices, low breathing, calling me back. I don't know why I keep it. Part of me wants to burn it, smash it, bury it in the river. But another part knows that the basement isn't done with me, that it's patient, and it waits. And tonight I'll go back. I couldn't stay away. The key burned in my pocket, heavy and unrelenting, like it had a pulse of its own. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was obsession. But deep down, I knew it was something else. Something that had chosen me. The building was quiet when I returned. The corridors smelled of dust and floor wax. I slipped inside the basement door, heart hammering, and the familiar creak of the hinges echoed like a warning. I pressed the flashlight against my chest and stared into the dark. The stairs seemed steeper this time, longer, as if the basement had stretched in my absence. I took the first step and a cold draft brushed my neck. I froze. It smelled of damp earth, rot, and something metallic. My flashlight illuminated only the top few steps. Below, the darkness was absolute. It swallowed the beam as if it were hungry. I descended slowly, counting the steps aloud to steady my shaking hands. 1, 2, 3. Each footfall sounded like a drumbeat in a cavern. The air grew thicker. My chest burned as I drew breath, each inhale tasting of mold and mildew. The basement was different this time. Shelves, I remembered, were now stacked with boxes, old trunks, and crates. They were covered in cobwebs, some sagging under the weight of whatever had been stored inside. My flashlight caught the edges of a mirror, and I froze. My reflection was there, but it lingered a moment too long, moving independently, twitching its head while I stood still. I shook it off. It had to be a trick of the light. That's what I told myself. That's what I needed to believe. I explored, moving slowly between the shelves. That's when I noticed them, shadows shifting in the corners of my vision. Objects seemed off. A chair slightly out of place from where I remembered. A toolbox on the floor that wasn't there before. Every time I blinked, something moved, and then I heard it, whispers, soft at first. Almost imperceptible. I stopped walking, straining my ears. The voices were faint, coming from the far end of the basement, curling around the shelves like smoke. Words I couldn't quite understand. Breathy, almost animal. The kind of whisper that makes your skin crawl because it feels like it's inside your head, not just around you. "Who's there?" I whispered back, though my voice sounded small, weak. Nothing answered. Only the whispers grew louder, circling me. I could feel them pressing against my skull. They know I'm here. I stumbled forward, heart in my throat, flashlight beam flicking across the walls. A trunk rattled on its own. A box teetered on the edge of a shelf, then fell to the floor with a thud that echoed through the basement. My flashlight shook, and for a moment I thought I saw shapes moving in the darkness. Tall, thin, impossible silhouettes stretching along the walls. I told myself it was fear. My mind playing tricks, but the whispers. They weren't tricks. They were deliberate. Calling me, testing me, waiting. I reached a section of the basement I hadn't noticed before. The walls here were damp, streaked with mold, and the concrete cracked in jagged patterns. My flashlight caught a figure crouched in the far corner. I froze, heart hammering. The shape wasn't human. Too tall, too thin, angles in places that shouldn't bend. It stared at me, and even though I couldn't see eyes in the darkness, I knew it was watching. Then the whispers stopped. Silence hit me like a weight. The kind of silence that presses into your ears, your chest, your bones, and then a slow scratching sound. Metal on concrete. It came from behind me. I spun, flashlight beam slicing through the black. Nothing. The air felt alive, heavy, pressing in. I moved, more cautiously now. Every step felt wrong, the floorboards groaning under weight they hadn't before. Shadows moved at the edge of my vision, shapes I couldn't quite catch. Boxes shifted. A chair scraped across the floor, and I swear I heard breathing. Not my own. Not human. I tried to calm myself. This is an old basement. Old buildings make noises. You're imagining things. But even as I said it, I knew I wasn't imagining. The air was too thick, too alive. I could feel it moving around me, probing. Then I saw it. A doorway. I hadn't noticed it before. No door, just an opening into the deepest part of the basement. Darkness beyond it was complete, as if the light itself feared to enter. I wanted to leave. I knew I should. But something drew me forward. Curiosity, obsession, or something else entirely. I stepped inside. My flashlight barely pierced the void. The whispers returned, closer now, circling me like vultures. I could almost make out the words, but they twisted and warped into nonsense as soon as I tried to focus. Names. My name. Calling me. I stumbled over something. My flashlight beam caught a stack of crates. One of them toppled. Inside, I saw faces, not pictures. Real faces. Frozen, twisted, pressed against the wood. Pale, hollow, eyes staring, mouths open in silent screams. My stomach churned. I vomited against the wall. I tried to move past, but the crates shifted. Not falling, not tipping, moving. Slowly, deliberately, as if something inside them pushed against the wood. I backed away, heart hammering, and that's when I noticed it. Footprints. Muddy, wet, enormous footprints leading away from the crates and deeper into the darkness. I followed them, trembling, drawn forward despite every instinct screaming at me to turn around. The whispers intensified, voices overlapping, layering on top of each other. Not words exactly, but commands, demands, pleas, threats. My flashlight flickered. Shadows moved faster now, darting just beyond the light. One of them lunged, and I screamed, stumbling back. The light steadied, but the shadow had vanished. I stopped in the center of the basement. The air felt thick with intent, like the building itself was alive, breathing, watching. Objects moved without touch, papers floating in the air, chairs spinning slowly, drawers sliding open and closed. Every movement made me jump. Every whisper made my head spin. I remembered the key in my pocket. I touched it. Warm now, almost hot, vibrating, pulling me toward the far corner of the basement. I didn't want to go. I wanted to run, but my legs moved of their own accord, carried by some unseen force. There, in the corner, was a door. Old wood, swollen with moisture, hinges rusted. I had never seen it before. The whispers drew me closer. Names, faint laughter, the sound of breathing. I pressed my hand to the door. The key reacted, burning through my fingers. I swallowed hard. I could feel it behind the door. Something waiting. Something patient. Something alive. The air vibrated with it. My flashlight trembled in my hand, and then it spoke. Not a whisper this time. A voice low, guttural, almost inside my chest. "You belong." I stumbled back, tripping over a crate, nearly losing my flashlight. My heart raced. My lungs screamed. I wanted to run. I wanted to escape the basement, the building, the key, but the shadows pressed in, following, circling, watching. Every movement in the darkness seemed alive, deliberate, hungry. I don't know how long I stayed there, frozen, listening. Minutes? Hours? Time didn't exist in that space. Only the whispers, the shadows, the weight of something waiting. Finally, I pulled myself together. I ran, stumbled, fell, scrambled up the stairs. The door slammed shut behind me with a finality that made my ears ring. I collapsed against the main floor, gasping, shaking. My flashlight lay on the ground, still warm in my hand. I left the building at dawn. The streets were quiet, indifferent to what had happened in that basement. I tried to tell myself it was over, that it was just my mind, exhaustion, imagination. But the whispers stayed. In dreams, in quiet moments, in the corners of my vision, I could feel them circling, waiting, patient. The key was still in my pocket, heavy and warm. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I didn't want to. I knew it was calling me back. I knew that whatever waited in that basement was patient, that it would wait for me, and I knew I would return because something inside me, something I couldn't fight, wanted it to. I've tried to tell myself it's just curiosity, obsession, madness, but I can feel it inside my chest, growing, spreading, pulling me back down. The basement whispers, it waits, and I am not ready to stop listening. I shouldn't have gone back. Every fiber of my being screamed it. But the key burned in my pocket, heavy and insistent. It pulled me. I couldn't resist. I don't even know if I wanted to resist. The building greeted me with its usual cold emptiness. The fluorescent lights buzzed like angry insects. I walked past the main floor, past the offices, the stairwells, the corridors that had long since swallowed the echoes of the living. Every step toward the basement made my chest tighten. My hands shook. I could feel the shadows stretching, shifting, almost waiting for me. The basement door was exactly where I remembered. I pressed the key into the lock, and it turned smoothly, like it had been waiting for this night. I pushed the door open, and the smell hit me first. Damp, mold, iron, rotten air, thick and suffocating. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness. The stairs loomed ahead, deeper, longer than ever. I stepped down. Each footfall felt wrong, too loud, as if the basement itself was listening. The air was heavy, pressing against my lungs, thick with anticipation. Shadows moved at the edges of my vision, stretching and twisting. I told myself it was fatigue, imagination, but I didn't believe myself. I never had. I reached the bottom and froze. The basement was alive. Objects moved on their own, chairs scraping, crates shifting, paper fluttering like wounded birds. Shadows darted between shelves. The whispers returned, louder, clearer. They called my name, repeated it over and over, low, guttural, layered. Ayat, ayat. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. I'm leaving, I stammered, though the words felt useless. The whispers didn't care. They didn't listen. They were waiting. I tried to move, but my legs betrayed me. Something pressed against my chest, not solid, not air, but weight. Something aware, something patient. I struggled. My flashlight flickered, casting long, jagged shadows across the walls. They moved faster now. Shapes, bending at impossible angles, twisting in ways human bodies never should. And then I saw it. At the far end of the basement, in the deepest darkness, a figure emerged. It wasn't human. I don't think it ever had been. Too tall, impossibly thin. Its limbs bent wrong. Its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Skin stretched taut, pale as bone. Its eyes that weren't eyes, but black voids that seemed to suck in the light. It stared at me. I knew it saw everything. Not just me, but inside me. Every memory, every fear, every secret. I wanted to run. My legs finally obeyed, but the basement seemed to stretch, elongating, twisting. Stairs appeared where there were none. Shadows crowded every corner. The whispers became words now, commands, threats. Stay, belong, join. I stumbled over a crate. My flashlight skittered across the floor, illuminating something. Faces. Pressed into walls, floating in the darkness, twisted, screaming silently. I vomited again, my stomach twisting, bile burning. The creature advanced, each step slow but impossible, deliberate. The air around it distorted, thickening, pressing in. I ran, turning corners blindly. Objects moved to block me. Chairs, boxes, metal tools sliding across the floor. The whispers escalated into a cacophony of voices overlapping, screaming, laughing. I could feel them crawling under my skin. My head ached. My chest ached. I wanted to scream, but no sound came. The key burned hotter in my pocket. I pulled it out. It pulsed in my hand, vibrating, almost alive. I didn't know if it wanted me to use it or if it was warning me, but I had no choice. I pressed it into the lock of a door I hadn't noticed before. It clicked. I opened it, and a rush of stale air hit me. Another stairwell, twisting downward, darker than any part of the basement I had seen. I ran. The whispers followed, relentless inside my head now. Ayat, don't leave. Belong! The floor beneath me trembled. Shadows spilled from walls, crawling like liquid, reaching for me. One touched my shoulder. Cold. Solid. I screamed this time, a real scream that echoed against concrete. I stumbled into a room, small, enclosed. It smelled of rot, decay, death, and there in the center was the key again. Not in my hand. Not on the floor. It floated, suspended, pulsing with heat. And behind it, more faces. Hundreds, maybe thousands, pressed into the walls, twisted in agony. Their eyes followed me, mouths moving in silent pleas. The creature stepped into the room behind me. I could feel it before I saw it. The darkness coiled around it, making it appear larger, monstrous. It tilted its head, the voids of its eyes boring into mine. My flashlight flickered, and for a moment, I saw every face it had ever consumed, every shadow it had twisted, every whisper it had sent. And then it reached for me. I ran. I don't know how I moved so fast. My legs carried me up the stairs, through the twisting corridors, through the shelves and boxes that seemed to shift to trap me. The whispers screamed now, overlapping, chanting. I could feel fingers brushing my skin, cold, sharp, insistent. Every step forward felt like a lifetime. I reached the main floor. The stairwell door was ahead. I shoved it open, nearly falling through. I slammed it behind me. My flashlight clattered to the floor. I pressed my back against the door, panting, trembling, shaking from head to toe. My skin felt raw, my chest heaving, but it didn't stop. The whispers were faint now, but they never left. The key, it was still in my pocket, warm, pulsing, calling, waiting. I left the building that morning. I don't remember the walk home. I remember only the shadows, the whispers, the way the air felt heavy on my skin, the way the darkness seemed to follow me even in the sunlight. I tried to burn the key, tried to throw it into the river, tried to bury it in the woods, but it always returned. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the basement, the faces, the creature, the shadows reaching for me, and the whispers. They never stop. Sometimes at night I wake up and I hear the scraping, soft, slow, inside my walls, behind doors, in the corners. I know it's patient. I know it's waiting. I know it will find me again. I don't go back to the building anymore. I can't, not yet. But I know the basement is still there, waiting, watching, staring. And one day, it will call me back, and I will answer, because the basement stares back, and I am not strong enough to look away. I hate nights like this. Not the long drives or the empty highways. I've gotten used to that. No, it's the silence when I step off the truck. The way the world seems to hold its breath in these hours, like something's waiting for me to notice. The warehouse sat like a hulking shadow against the faint streetlights, steel walls cold and unwelcoming. I killed the engine, and the usual rumble of the truck faded into a thick, unnatural quiet. I thought I'd done this 100 times, but tonight my hands were shaking. Maybe it was the late hour, or maybe it was the way the warehouse seemed to watch me. I grabbed the clipboard and flashlight, trying to focus on the work, but my eyes kept drifting to the gaps in the shadows between the crates. There was something about the emptiness that felt wrong. Usually a warehouse at this hour hums with a low mechanical life. Forklifts, motors, distant voices from security radios, but here there was nothing. Nothing at all. I tried to shake it off, pretending I was just being paranoid. "It's just a building," I muttered under my breath. The word sounded thin and hollow even to me. I knew I was alone, and I hated that word. Alone. It had a way of curling around your chest, making it hard to breathe without noticing it. The concrete floor echoed with each step as I walked toward the loading dock. My flashlight flickered once, briefly throwing the shadows into sharp, jagged shapes. I cursed under my breath, tapping it against my palm until the light steadied, but even steady, it didn't reassure me. There was a shape in the corner of the dock, something tall, hunched. I froze, my pulse hammered in my ears. I blinked and it was gone. Just a stack of crates, of course. My mind filling in things that weren't there, trying to make the silence mean something. I wanted to laugh at myself, but it stuck in my throat, caught between fear and disbelief. I moved toward the interior, following the beams of light from my flashlight. The air smelled faintly of oil and old cardboard, a mixture I knew too well. Yet it felt thicker tonight, like it was pressing against me. I ran my fingers along the edges of the pallets, counting, checking, doing anything that would keep my mind busy. Anything to avoid the feeling that I was not alone. Then I heard it. A whisper, soft, almost beneath the hum of the fluorescent lights. I froze, straining my ears. The warehouse had been empty for hours. There was no one here. And yet, there it was again, a faint scrape, like someone dragging a shoe across the concrete. I told myself it was rats, or wind catching something loose, anything. My voice sounded absurd in the emptiness when I called out, "Hello?" No answer. Just the echo of my own words bouncing back at me, distorted, strange. I decided to check the truck inside. Maybe it would make me feel better. The cargo doors were closed, locked tight. I leaned my shoulder against the cold metal, listening. The whispering had stopped, but my skin still crawled, prickling at every corner, every dark space. I opened the door. The crates inside were stacked neatly, just as they should be. Nothing missing, nothing out of place. I exhaled a long, shaky breath. "See? Nothing," I muttered. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was moving just beyond my vision, shifting in the corners of the warehouse like it had been there since the walls were built. The lights flickered, once, twice. I cursed again, this time louder. The sudden darkness made me jump, my flashlight beam darting wildly. And then it hit me, the sound of footsteps, not mine. Slow, deliberate, moving just outside the truck, around the other side. My throat tightened. My heartbeat thumped in my ears, loud and insistent, as if it was trying to tell me to run. I called out, voice trembling this time. "Hey, who's there?" Nothing, just the echo of my fear. I wanted to step out, to chase it down, to confront whatever was here. But every instinct screamed at me to stay put, to freeze, to hope it was nothing. Minutes passed. I don't know how many. The footsteps didn't come closer. They didn't leave, they just hovered somewhere in the distance of the warehouse, always out of reach. My rational mind told me it was impossible. No one could be here. But my body refused to accept it. I tried to move, taking careful steps toward the main office at the far end. The air felt heavier with each step, thick like it was resisting me. My flashlight caught on a metal shelf, casting a shadow that looked almost like a hand reaching for me. I jumped back, heart racing, telling myself it was the beam, the angle, nothing real, but the dread didn't leave. In the office, I found the intercom panel. I pressed the button, trying to signal the security desk. I stopped. My voice caught. Silence. The line was dead, static filling the speaker. Nothing but silence. I leaned against the desk, closing my eyes for a moment. Breathe, I told myself. Just breathe! The warehouse was empty. Nothing was wrong. Just deliver the goods, check the list, and leave. Simple, routine, safe. I opened my eyes, and that's when I noticed it. A crate, small, sitting in the corner of the office. I didn't remember seeing it before. Not on the checklist. Not in the shipment. My stomach twisted. I walked toward it slowly, every muscle tense, flashlight shaking in my grip. The crate was unmarked. No labels, no company name, nothing. Just a wooden box sitting there like it had always been waiting. I knelt down, brushing my fingers over the rough surface. There was something etched into the wood, letters maybe, but they shifted when I looked away. A trick of the light, I told myself. My brain trying to make sense of fear, and then I heard it again. Footsteps, behind me just past the door. I didn't dare turn. I couldn't. My body refused. I wanted to run, to bolt, but my legs felt frozen to the floor. The footsteps stopped. Silence. The kind of silence that presses against your ears, filling your head, making you feel as if you've stepped outside the world. And then a whisper. Don't leave. My blood ran cold. The words were faint, almost polite, almost human. But I knew they weren't meant to be. They weren't a warning. They were an invitation. A promise. I didn't wait. I ran, the flashlight swinging wildly, catching glimpses of empty halls that seemed longer than they should be, corners that twisted in ways impossible for a building, shadows that moved against the grain of light. I could hear it following me, always just behind, just beyond the beam. By the time I reached the main exit, my hands were trembling, my chest heaving. I flung the doors open, expecting the relief of night air, but the parking lot was empty. No cars, no streetlights, no reassurance. Just black asphalt stretching into nothing. I slammed the truck door behind me, fumbling with the keys. My hands slick with sweat. I didn't care about the cargo, about the schedule. I just wanted out, anywhere. But as I started the engine, I glanced back once. The warehouse loomed silently, unchanging, as if it had never moved. And in one of the darkened windows, I swore I saw a figure, watching, waiting. I drove away, the headlights cutting through the night, my heart still hammering, my mind replaying that voice over and over. Don't leave. Even now, hours later, I can't shake it. The words echo in my head. The warehouse feels alive, and I know somehow it's waiting for the next delivery, waiting for me to return. I didn't sleep that night. I pulled into the motel on the outskirts of town, hands still shaking, heartbeat still jagged from the warehouse. I stared at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see shadows moving behind me, but the lot was empty. Safe, normal, boring. Exactly what I wanted. My co-driver, Malik, was already asleep. I could hear the shallow rise and fall of his breathing, steady and undisturbed. Lucky him. He didn't see what I saw. He didn't feel what I felt. I envied that. Morning came gray and thin, the kind of light that doesn't warm anything. We were back on the road by 7, the radio crackling softly, a companionable hum. I tried to push last night out of my mind. Warehouses were supposed to be boring. Routine. Safe. And yet, every time I blinked, I saw that shape in the corner of the office, heard that soft whisper. We arrived at the next drop early. Another warehouse, another dock. Malik went ahead, clipboard in hand, moving with his usual careless confidence. I stayed behind with the truck, checking straps and seals, counting crates. That's when I noticed something strange. The back dock doors were wide open, though Malik had locked them after unloading yesterday. I squinted. Maybe it was the wind. Maybe a careless worker. I shrugged it off. Nothing else looked wrong. Malik waved at me from the dock. "Everything good?" he called. His voice sounded normal, calm, safe. Yeah, all good," I answered, though my stomach nodded. I couldn't explain why, but I didn't like the way the sunlight seemed too pale. The way the shadows in the corner of the dock stretched too long. He nodded and started checking the rear of the truck. "I'll be 5 minutes," he said. I watched him disappear behind the trailer, the sound of his boots muffled against the concrete. That was the last time I saw him. I waited. 1 minute, 2, 3, longer than I expected. I called his name, loud this time. "Malik?" My voice bounced off the walls, swallowed by the empty warehouse. Nothing. I walked around to the back, trying to stay calm. Maybe he had stepped into the office. Maybe he was joking. But when I reached the dock, the space was empty. No sign of him. No crates out of place. No footprints. Just the pale, still concrete. I thought he might be messing with me. Maybe hiding as a prank. But my gut told me otherwise. Something had gone wrong. I checked the security cameras, my fingers trembling. The screens flickered, displaying angles I didn't remember seeing. Corners of the warehouse that shouldn't have existed. Shadows that seemed wrong. I saw Malik walking toward the back dock, just as I remembered. And then he vanished. No door. No wall. Just nothing. I rubbed my eyes. Maybe I was tired. Maybe my mind was twisting reality. But the feeling of wrongness didn't leave. The air felt heavier, thick with a kind of weight I couldn't name. I went outside, calling his name again, scanning the empty lot, the surrounding area. Nothing. No alley, no office, no hidden storage. Just the warehouse, indifferent, immovable, and then I saw it. The truck. Our truck. Or at least it should have been ours. It wasn't parked where I left it. The keys were still in my hand. The engine was cold. The doors were locked. And yet the truck had disappeared. I stumbled back, heart hammering. I told myself it was impossible. No one could move a truck this size alone. There were security gates, alarms, but there it wasn't. Just empty asphalt, stretching endlessly. My hands shook and I dropped the keys. They clattered against the concrete. I ran to the office, trying the phones. Deadlines. Intercom silent. Everything dead, everything still, everything wrong. I went back to the lot, scanning the perimeter, calling out again. Malik's voice didn't answer. The truck didn't answer. The warehouse just loomed, silent, staring. I felt trapped, like the walls had shifted closer, pressing in, the shadows crawling along the edges. I tried to retrace my steps. Maybe I'd forgotten something. Maybe I had walked into a storage closet or a hidden loading area. But the warehouse was a straight rectangle. I knew it. I'd memorized these routes countless times. And yet every turn felt longer, corridors stretching impossibly, ceilings higher than they should be. I thought I saw movement in the corner of my eye. A flicker. A shadow brushing past, but when I turned, nothing. Just walls, empty crates, the faint hum of fluorescent lights. I called out one more time, voice raw. "Malik, where are you?" The echo returned, distorted, slow, almost like someone had slowed it down and whispered it back at me. My stomach knotted. I felt nausea rising. I ran to the main entrance, planning to leave, to drive to the nearest station, call the police, tell someone, anything. But the exit wasn't there. Or maybe it was, but it didn't open. The door handle moved in my hand, but the door didn't budge. Concrete stretched beyond it, solid, unyielding. I backed away, gasping. The warehouse seemed to breathe around me. I could hear a faint scratching now, far away but insistent. A rhythm, slow, deliberate, like someone pacing just out of reach. I ran back toward the center, hoping to find a phone, a security office, anything. And that's when I noticed the walls. Marks scratched into the paint, small letters, almost illegible. "Don't leave," they said. Repeated over and over, in different handwriting, in different directions. Some backwards, some upside down. I stumbled back, nausea threatening to spill. I didn't hear Malik's voice anymore. I didn't see the truck, only the walls closing in, the shadows that stretched in impossible directions. The floor seemed to dip, then rise, subtly shifting under my feet. My mind screamed that it was impossible, but every instinct told me it was real. I tried the intercom again, static. Then his voice. Malik's voice. But not him. Coming from the speaker above. Desperate. Terrified. "Help! Please, it's not safe. Don't!" The line cut off, leaving a single, drawn-out buzzing note that pressed against my skull. I ran toward the sound, toward the office, toward anywhere, but the warehouse kept moving. Halls I knew well twisted into new corridors. The ceiling rose and fell. Doors led to walls. The air grew colder, smelled faintly of dust and rust, and something else I couldn't name. And then I saw it again. Shadows gathered near the far dock. Not moving naturally, but coalescing, stretching like smoke. And in the middle, Malik, or what looked like him, standing perfectly still, eyes wide, expression frozen in a scream I couldn't hear. I froze, the weight of everything pressing down on me. My throat dry, lungs burning. I reached out, but he didn't move, didn't respond. And then he vanished, the shadow dispersing into nothing. I ran to the place where the truck should have been. Empty asphalt, empty lot, empty world. No way out! I screamed, loud, raw, but the warehouse swallowed it instantly, returning only silence. I don't know how long I ran after that. Hours? Minutes? The concept of time slipped like sand through my fingers. Every turn brought me back to the same lot, the same walls, the same impossible shadows. And Malik was gone. My truck was gone. The warehouse had taken them both. I ended up sitting on the concrete, shaking, listening to the faintest scraping of metal, footsteps that weren't mine, and whispers, soft and distant. I realized something then, a cold, sinking truth. I wasn't just in the warehouse. I was in its space, its time, its rules, and it had no intention of letting me leave. I don't know who else has come before me. I don't know who will come after. But I know this, the warehouse isn't empty, and it's waiting, always waiting. I don't remember how long I had been in the warehouse by then. Time was broken. Minutes could have been hours. Hours could have been days. My body ached, my legs numb from pacing the same endless halls. Every corridor led me back to the same empty lot, the same silent dock, the same impossible shadows. I had stopped trying to rationalize anything. Logic, maps, cameras, it was all meaningless. The warehouse didn't obey the rules of the world. It had its own rules, its own language. That's when the intercom came to life. A low hum at first, faint, almost drowned in the stillness. Then, a voice, small, trembling, barely there. "Help!" I froze. My hand instinctively went to the wall, gripping the edge of a metal support beam. My heart hammered so violently I thought it might burst. "Malik?" I whispered, voice shaking. The voice answered immediately, or maybe a moment later. I couldn't tell. "No, don't! Please!" The words were broken, gasping, desperate. I ran toward the speaker, stumbling over crates, the floor shifting beneath me as always. The voice was coming from all directions now, echoing through the intercom channels, overlapping, multiplying. "Help me! Don't, please!" I recognized the cadence, the desperation. It was Malik's voice, but wrong, distorted, layered with something else, something cold, inhuman. I pounded the intercom buttons, trying to respond, trying to find the source, but it was useless. The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. The echo of it bounced around the warehouse, twisting, overlapping, sometimes repeating before the sentence even finished. I sank to my knees, pressing my hands over my ears, rocking back and forth. But the sound didn't leave. It burrowed under my skin, rattling my teeth, vibrating through my chest, and then another voice joined. Quieter, softer, almost pleading. "Don't follow me." I froze. The two voices intertwined, Malik's and this other, unknown one, weaving together into something impossible. I didn't understand, couldn't understand. And yet, every nerve in my body screamed to obey the warning and run. But there was nowhere to run. I staggered toward the security room, desperate for cameras, for proof, for anything to anchor me to reality. The monitors flickered to life. But they didn't show the warehouse as it should be. The angles were wrong. Doors where there were walls. Corridors bending impossibly, folding back on themselves. Shadows that moved contrary to logic. On one screen I saw Malik again, or at least a version of him, standing perfectly still in the far dock, staring at me. His eyes were wide, terrified, but he didn't move. The camera shifted slightly, and suddenly he was closer, right behind me. Or maybe he had never moved at all, but the screen made it seem like he was there. I stumbled backward. My reflection in the monitor caught my attention. I I looked pale, drawn, terrified. But something behind me moved. Not Malik, something else. A shadow, tall, lean, impossibly thin, moving fluidly through the crates. Every time I looked, it shifted, stretched, always just out of reach, always just on the edge of my vision. I turned the camera feeds one by one. Each angle revealed the warehouse differently. Corridors twisted in ways they physically couldn't. Doors opened to ceilings. Hallways bent upward. My stomach twisted. The building itself seemed alive, rearranging, responding to me. Then the intercom screamed again. Not words this time. Just screams, high-pitched, wet, desperate. They came from all directions, overlapping, some echoing, some raw and immediate. I covered my ears, but it didn't stop. I dropped to the floor, trembling, crawling toward the nearest wall. I forced myself to peek at one camera again, and there he was, Malik, or what was left of him. Not fully human, not fully anything. His face stretched unnaturally, mouth opening in a scream that seemed to absorb light, his limbs bending at angles impossible. And yet somehow, unmistakably him. Another monitor flickered to life. A hallway I didn't remember. At the end, a door I had never seen. Light behind it, faint, golden, inviting. I thought for a second that maybe it was a way out. I bolted for it, ignoring the screams, ignoring the twisting shadows that reached for me from the walls and floors. The door was cold metal. I yanked, locked. My fingers bled from the effort. The intercom screamed again, and this time I understood. It wasn't just voices. It was mocking me, guiding me, trapping me. I pounded the door. "Let me out!" I screamed. The sound echoed back at me, distorted. My voice came back slower, dragged out, twisting in impossible ways. I stumbled back, hands pressed to my ears, and then silence. Total, suffocating silence. I crawled back to the monitors. All the screens were dark, except one. A single camera pointed at me, watching, recording. I could see myself in the flickering light, trembling, broken, sweat running down my face. And behind me, a figure, tall, thin, featureless, standing where no one should have been. I spun around. Empty hallway, nothing. The intercom remained silent. And yet, the air felt heavier, oppressive, charged. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. Then, a whisper. "Stay." I ran. I don't even remember how I found myself back at the main dock. The lot stretched endlessly, empty, pale, indifferent. My truck was gone. Malik was gone. Everything that grounded me to the world outside, the walls, the doors, the streets, had vanished. I collapsed to the ground, sobbing. My hands shook as I wiped tears from my face. And then I heard it. Another whisper. Softer this time. "You belong here," I screamed. I clawed at the floor, at the walls, at anything solid. But everything was just wrong, shifting, alive, hungry. I don't know how long I stayed there, huddled on the cold concrete. Minutes? Hours? Days? My mind kept flickering between memory and hallucination, past and present. And every time I thought I might escape, the intercom screamed again. Malik's voice. My voice. Something else. Screams, pleading, warning. Overlapping, endless. A chorus that didn't care if I understood it. It only cared that I listened. And then I saw it again. A shadow. Taller than a man. Impossibly thin. Moving fluidly between crates. I swear it grinned, though it had no face. Only the suggestion of one. My stomach twisted. My legs refused to move. It pointed at me. Or at the monitors. Or maybe it was pointing at something I couldn't see. And the whispers came again, closer, urgent. "Stay, stay, stay!" I don't know how I survived that night. I don't know if I slept, if I blinked, if I ate. Time didn't exist here. Only the warehouse. Only the monitors. Only the voices. Only the shadows. I do know this. It knows me. It watches me. And it waits. Always. For me to move, for me to speak, for me to make a mistake. I don't know if I'll ever leave. All I know is that the warehouse isn't empty. It has never been empty. And whatever lives inside, it isn't human. I thought I understood the warehouse by then. Thought I could find a corner to hide, a route to escape, a wall that made sense. I was wrong. Every corner I turned, every corridor I followed, brought me back to the same lot. Same dock, same impossible shadows. It didn't matter what I did. I could not leave. I woke up, or thought I did, sitting on cold concrete, the faint hum of fluorescent lights filling my ears. The lot stretched before me. My truck was gone. Malik was gone. And yet I was exactly where I had been. Time. Time had no meaning here. Minutes might be days. Days might be a blink. I tried calling out, screaming, banging on walls. Nothing changed. The warehouse remained patient, indifferent, watching, waiting. The intercom crackled to life again. I knew it would be another voice. Maybe Malik. Maybe something else. "Don't leave," it whispered. "Stay." I ran instinctively, trying to find an exit that didn't exist. Every hallway led me back here. Every door opened to another wall. The walls themselves seemed to breathe, subtle expansions and contractions, watching, learning, shifting. Shadows stretched unnaturally, sometimes solid, sometimes fluid, always at the edge of my vision. I fell to my knees, gasping. My hands shook. I clawed at the concrete, at the walls, at the floor, desperate to feel something real, something solid. But the warehouse gave nothing. Only shadows, only whispers, only hunger. I noticed something new then. Marks in the walls, scratches, letters, faces. I couldn't be sure. They shifted when I looked away, reappearing in places I had already searched. Each one whispered, calling, pleading, laughing. My name, my fears, my failures. I stumbled into the main dock area, breath ragged, tears blinding me. And there he was, or rather what used to be him. Malik. His body stretched, elongated, angles impossible, eyes wide, mouth frozen in an eternal scream. He didn't move. He didn't blink. He just existed there, a warning, a mirror of what might become of me. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. I wanted to disappear. But the warehouse shifted again. A door I swore had been there was gone. A hallway I remembered became a spiral, folding back on itself, impossible geometry, the walls bending and stretching like living things. And I realized I was trapped. I ran again, reckless, no purpose, no hope. The intercom crackled, filling the warehouse with overlapping voices. My voice, Malik's, and something else. Something old. Something patient. Screams, whispers, warnings, pleas, commands, all tangled together, impossible to untangle, impossible to escape. I tried hiding in the office, the same office I had seen on my first night. The crate, the unmarked wooden box. I sank to the floor, pressing my back against the wall. My fingers traced the edges of the crate, rough and cold. Letters were etched into the wood. I couldn't read them. They shifted when I blinked. They whispered my name. I forced myself to stand. The intercom screamed. Shadows moved. Walls breathed. I had to keep moving. But where? Every path led me back here. The lot, the dock, the twisting corridors. I tried to run in straight lines, in circles, even backwards, but it was no use. The warehouse had me. I saw shapes now. Figures at the edge of vision, tall and thin, faceless, watching, waiting. They didn't chase me. They didn't attack. They simply existed, patient and cold, observing my every step. My fear fed them. My despair nourished them. And they never left. I stopped. For the first time, truly stopped. I leaned against a wall, trembling, exhausted, and finally dared to look around. The monitors flickered to life without prompting. Camera angles impossible, perspectives that should not exist. And there, in each screen, I saw me, sitting, standing, running, collapsing, always back at the same lot, same dock, same impossible warehouse. I screamed. The sound echoed, bounced back, distorted, slowed, stretched. The monitors flickered again. On one, I saw Malik, still trapped, still screaming silently, eternally. On another, I saw shadows moving in impossible shapes. And on the last, I saw a figure standing where I should be, taller, thinner, faceless, waiting. It pointed at me. Stay, I understood then. The warehouse wasn't just a place. It was alive. It was patient. It was eternal. It could reshape reality, twist time, fold space. And it didn't want me to leave. It had claimed me. I tried the intercom again, hoping, pleading. Maybe I could negotiate. Maybe I could reason. My own voice answered first. Then another joined. Malik's? Something else. Words tangled in static. Impossible, overlapping messages, all saying the same thing. Stay, never leave, belong. I fell to the floor, sobbing. My body refused to move. My mind refused to reason. And yet deep in the darkness, I felt a shift, a movement, the presence of the warehouse itself. Alive, patient, hungry, watching. I drifted or slept or whatever this state was. When I awoke, I was back at the lot. Same asphalt, same dock, same shadows. My truck was still gone. Malik was still gone. The warehouse remained indifferent and eternal. I wandered, hoping to find a door, a route, a way out. Every turn brought me back to the same place. The walls breathed. The lights flickered. The monitors glowed with impossible angles, showing me scenes I had already lived. My screams echoed endlessly. I tried to write something down, to leave a trace, but the paper disappeared when I turned my back. The pencil snapped in my hand. The crate, always the crate, shifted when I blinked, letters whispering impossible words. I saw other shapes then, shadows more solid, figures that mirrored me, mirrored Malik, mirrored something else I couldn't name. They moved in unison, silent, patient, relentless. They didn't chase. They waited. They knew I couldn't leave, and I understood fully then. The warehouse doesn't let anyone leave. Not Malik, not me, not anyone. It reshapes reality to trap you, folds time to erase your escape, twists space to make every corridor lead back. And it will wait, patiently, eternally. I screamed. I ran. I collapsed. And I ran again, always back at the lot, always facing shadows, always hearing whispers, always seeing Malik, always hearing my own voice pleading through the intercom. I tried to call someone. Police friends, anyone? Deadlines, static, whispers. The warehouse absorbing every word before it left the walls. I tried to leave. Impossible. Doors solid, corridors infinite, exits evaporating. I ran in circles, spirals, lines, zigzags, desperate, screaming, exhausted, nothing. Always back at the lot, always the dock, always the shadows. I realized something worse than death. Worse than fear? The warehouse doesn't kill. It doesn't need to. You vanish into it. You become part of it. You loop endlessly, time folding over itself, space stretching, reality bending. You never leave. You never escape. You are erased. Only whispers and shadows remain. I reached out one last time, touching the crate, tracing the letters, feeling the cold wood, the rough edges. I whispered my own name. The warehouse listened. It moved. Shadows shifted. The intercom cracked to life. Stay. I understood fully. I am here now, sitting, standing, running, collapsing, all at once, watching, waiting, patient. The lot stretches endlessly before me. The dock is silent. My truck is gone. Malik is gone. The shadows watch. The warehouse waits. And I belong. Forever. I always thought the night shift would be quiet. Easy. Just me. The hum of the fluorescent lights. And the soft click of my boots on the linoleum. The building had been empty for months, no tenants, no cleaning staff, nothing. Just me and the echo of my own footsteps. I remember checking my watch for the 5th time that night. It was 2:17 a.m., which meant I had been at the desk for almost 3 hours. I stared at the monitors, grayscale, nothing moving. Occasionally, I'd catch the flicker of a shadow in the corner of the frame, but I always blamed it on the camera's low resolution. My supervisor had left strict instructions. Call him if anything seemed off. But honestly, after a week on this shift, I'd started ignoring the shadows. Then my phone rang. The sound was sharp against the background hum, startling me so badly I almost knocked my coffee over. I fumbled for it, and when I saw the caller ID, my stomach dropped. My own number. I stared at it, frozen. How? Phones didn't call themselves. A dozen explanations ran through my mind. A glitch, a prank, maybe my supervisor testing me in some sick way. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the green button. Finally, I answered. Hello? My voice sounded small. Silence. Then a voice, muffled, distorted, but unmistakably mine. Leave. Now. I laughed nervously. Okay, funny joke, whoever this is. The voice repeated, sharper this time. Leave the building, now. Cold ran down my spine. I looked around the empty office, the blinking screens, the locked doors. My hands were shaking. I wanted to hang up, but I couldn't. Something in that voice. It wasn't a joke. It was real. Who is this? I whispered, no answer. Just the low static of the line. I hung up, trying to convince myself it was a prank. I'd read stories online about people calling their own numbers with apps, software glitches, even hacked lines. I took a deep breath. I had to calm down. This was work. I was a professional. But then my phone rang again. Same number. My number. Leave, it said, calm now, almost patient. Before it's too late. I dropped the phone on the desk, staring at it like it might explode. My mind scrambled. I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a scam call, maybe someone had my number spoofed, maybe I was losing it. I told myself I was imagining things, but the hair on my neck stood up. My pulse was loud in my ears. I got up and walked the perimeter of the office, checking the doors, the windows, even the stairwell that led to the roof. Everything was locked, silent, empty. I felt ridiculous talking to myself, imagining shadows moving where there were none, and then I noticed something. The phones in the office, the landlines, were all dead. Cut off, dead lines. My cell was the only one left, glowing in my hand, ringing every few minutes with my own number. I sat back at my desk, hands trembling, trying to think. The voice, it wasn't just mine. It sounded like someone had reached inside me and pulled the tone, the rhythm, the hesitation of my speech. My voice, but not. I tried to speak into it, to challenge it. What do you want from me? The phone crackled. Watch carefully. A chill ran through me. My hands gripped the edges of the desk. Nothing on the monitors had changed. No movement, no flicker, just the dull hum of the fluorescent lights. But then I saw it, or I thought I did. On the screen closest to the stairwell, something moved, slow, almost gliding. A shadow that shouldn't be there, impossible in that shape. I blinked. Nothing. My mind played tricks. I told myself it was fatigue, nothing more. I leaned back in my chair, trying to steady my breathing. Then my phone vibrated. I glanced down. A text. From myself. Leave the building. Now. My stomach turned. My fingers shook as I held the phone. I tried to ignore it, tried to tell myself I was just tired. But the words on that screen weren't imagination. They were real. I glanced at the door, then the stairwell, then the cameras. Nothing moved. The building was as empty as ever. But the messages kept coming, one after another, relentless. Each one the same, each one mine. Leave the building. Now, I couldn't think. I couldn't move. My eyes darted around, heart hammering. I had never felt fear like this, not even on my first day as a guard. Not even when I had accidentally walked into a half-empty office and seen a shadow move where nothing should be. This was different. This was inside me. I could feel it crawling under my skin. I remembered the old stories, the warnings we used to joke about in training. Places that shouldn't be touched, nights that shouldn't be walked alone, voices that shouldn't be heard. And now, I was living one of those stories. I took a shaky breath and made a decision. I would leave. I would grab my coat and walk out the front door, call the police if I had to, tell my supervisor everything. But the moment I stood, my phone rang again. My number. Again. This time, I didn't pick it up. I couldn't. My hands were cold, my legs weak. But the vibration didn't stop. The screen lit up. Relentless. Screaming at me in my own font. In my own voice. In my own tone. Leave. Now. I sat there, frozen. Waiting for, I don't know what. Waiting for the world to make sense. Waiting for someone to appear in the shadows and explain. But there was nothing. Just me, the phone, and the building that had been quiet for months. Minutes, or maybe hours, passed. The lights flickered once, then settled. The monitors remained empty, but the phone continued to vibrate. My own number, my own voice, repeating the same command. I realized then that this wasn't a glitch. It wasn't a prank. It wasn't something that could be reasoned with. It was waiting, watching, and it knew me better than I knew myself. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stared at that phone, every vibration echoing in my chest like a drumbeat I couldn't escape. I knew that if I ignored it, if I stayed, something would happen. I didn't know what, but I knew it would be bad, and so I left my chair, slowly, painfully aware of every step. My coat was on the rack, My bag by the door. I grabbed them, every movement deliberate. My phone continued to vibrate in my pocket, the screen pressing against my leg like a warning. I opened the door, and the hallway stretched out before me, dark and silent. I took a step, then another. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to get out, but my body moved in slow, careful obedience. As I reached the stairwell, I glanced back. The office behind me looked empty, normal, just as it always had. But I knew better. I had seen it, heard it, felt it. The call came again. My own voice, insistent, urgent, leave. Now, I kept walking. I didn't stop until I reached the lobby, until I saw the streetlights outside casting pale yellow on the pavement. I pushed the door open, the cold night air biting at my face. My phone vibrated one last time in my pocket, then silence. For the first time that night, I allowed myself to breathe, but I knew it wasn't over. I knew that whatever had called me from the inside, whatever had used my own voice, was still there, still waiting, and I knew it wouldn't stop. After the call, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my small apartment, lights on, curtains drawn, every sound outside making me flinch. My phone rested on the table in front of me like a trap. I didn't want to touch it, but I couldn't stop looking at it. It was the center of everything that had gone wrong that night. The thing that had my own voice, my own words, repeating themselves like a mantra I couldn't escape. The next evening, I returned to the building. My supervisor had shrugged off my report, blaming stress and late nights. Buildings get old, shadows move. Don't overthink it, he said. Easy for him to say. He wasn't the one who had heard his own voice ordering him out. I swore under my breath as I swiped my badge and pushed through the doors. Empty as ever. Cold air, stale carpet, the smell of dust and old cleaning supplies. I sat at my desk, hoping that nothing would happen. The monitors were quiet, the hum of fluorescent lights normal. My phone buzzed. A message from myself. I froze. My hands shook. The message was a photo. I picked it up with trembling fingers. It was me, asleep at my desk. My head tilted sideways, mouth slightly open, papers scattered around me. My eyes snapped open in panic. I hadn't taken that photo. Nobody else was in the building. I checked the camera monitors, the entire floor, stairwells, lobby. Nothing. Empty. Silent. My stomach churned. I dropped the phone on the desk. Maybe I was imagining it, dreaming it, but the screen glowed clear and real. Another message. Another photo? Me, asleep. In the exact same position, but from a slightly different angle. Then another. Then another. I sat frozen, staring at the screen, my mind refusing to accept what I saw. How could this be possible? Who was watching me? How could they take photos of me without moving? The building had no windows on this floor, no way in. And yet, here I was, photographed in my own office, alone. I backed away from the desk, eyes darting around. Maybe it was someone hiding somewhere. A maintenance closet? A ventilation shaft? No. I had walked the floor a dozen times before. Nobody. Not a sound. Nothing. The messages kept coming. Each one the same. Me. Sleeping. Every subtle movement captured. I couldn't even stand up without my phone buzzing, showing me images of myself that I hadn't even noticed. Head tilting, fingers twitching, eyelids flickering. It was as if the building itself had eyes, as if the walls were watching me while I slept. I tried to reason. Maybe it's a hack, I muttered, pacing. Someone set up cameras, planted something, a joke. But deep down, I knew it wasn't logical. There was no way. Not possible. The lights flickered once briefly, making me jump. Shadows stretched across the walls in strange, impossible angles. I heard a soft rustling from the corner. My heartbeat accelerated. I strained my eyes, but there was nothing there. I laughed, a hollow sound. It's just nerves. Just nerves. I returned to the desk, shaking, trying to control my breathing. Another message. Another photo. Me asleep, my hand resting on the keyboard. My thumb twitched in the image. I had never moved that hand that way. I hadn't even realized I had been asleep. I pressed the call button to my supervisor, but there was no dial tone. All the landlines were dead again. My phone buzzed again, a vibration so sharp it almost knocked it off the desk. A new message. A single line. I see you. I dropped the phone. The word echoed in my mind, bouncing against the walls, settling in my chest like a stone. I was not alone. Never alone. Not for a second. Every corner, every shadow, every flicker of movement, it had been watching me all along. I tried to leave. I grabbed my bag, coat, keys, my phone buzzing with a new photo in my pocket. I froze. This one was different. It wasn't me asleep. It was me standing, looking at the phone on the desk. I hadn't moved. I hadn't taken it. My blood ran cold. I turned around, scanning the room, convinced someone would be there. Nothing. Empty. Silent. But the photo didn't lie. It was real, and it had been taken moments ago. I backed away from the desk, heart hammering, and the lights flickered again. This time long, slow, almost deliberate. I heard it then, a whisper. Soft, almost inaudible. My own voice closer, echoing from the walls. "I see you." I stumbled back, knocking over my chair. The sound was deafening in the silence. I pressed myself against the wall, shaking. My phone buzzed again. Another photo. This time it was me, standing at the corner of the hallway, staring straight at the camera. I hadn't moved, but the photo had been taken. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My mind raced, twisting through impossible explanations. Cameras? Pranksters? Glitch in reality? No, none of it made sense. None of it explained what was happening. The messages didn't stop. Each one more detailed, more intimate. I saw myself blinking, swallowing, tapping my fingers, yawning. The photos captured things I hadn't noticed myself. I felt violated, exposed. My own life documented without my knowledge by... what? I pressed myself against the wall, sliding down to the floor. My phone continued to buzz, vibrating against the carpet, screen glowing, displaying another image. And this one made my blood run cold. It was me asleep, yes, but not at my desk. I was lying on the floor in the corner of the office, the same corner I had checked a dozen times. The shadows stretched around me unnaturally, walls bending slightly as if they were closing in. I screamed. My voice bounced against the empty office, and the only answer was the soft vibration of my phone. Another message. Sleep is not safe. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the bag, the coat, my phone, and ran. Down the stairs, through the lobby, out into the night. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the phone. But I checked. Another photo, waiting for me in the inbox. It showed me leaving the building. My own movements captured in real time as if someone or something was following me, recording every step. I ran faster, breath ragged, mind screaming. But the photos continued, relentless, showing me through angles I couldn't possibly have imagined. Back at my apartment, I tried to sleep. Lights on, doors locked, windows shut. I told myself it would stop. That maybe it was just the building, just some sick trick, just something I could ignore. It didn't stop. My phone buzzed in the middle of the night. Another photo. This one of me lying in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. I was alone. I was in my apartment. And yet, here it was. Watching, waiting. I sat up, hands trembling, staring at the screen. Every nerve in my body screamed. I knew deep down that it wasn't just photos. It wasn't just messages. It was something alive, something patient, something that could reach me anywhere. And then I realized the worst part. It didn't need me to sleep. It was always awake, always watching. I couldn't leave my apartment anymore. Not for a night shift, not for anything. The photos kept coming, every hour, sometimes every few minutes. Each one showing me in ways I hadn't noticed. Every shadow, every blink, every small twitch captured, cataloged, sent back to me by me. I tried to delete the messages, block the number, turn off the phone. Nothing worked. Every time I looked, there it was. My own number, my own voice, my own eyes staring at me through the screen. I stopped looking at the monitors at work. I stopped checking the corners of the office. I couldn't. I couldn't risk seeing what I already knew was there. Waiting, watching, learning. And every night, my phone would remind me, I see you. I don't remember the last time I felt like myself. Days blur into nights now. I stay awake because sleep isn't safe, but being awake isn't either. My phone has become a mirror I can't stop staring into. Every time I think about throwing it away, It buzzes with another photo, another message, and I feel that familiar cold behind my ribs, like something pressing its face against the glass, waiting. I haven't told anyone else. Who would believe me? A night watchman, losing his mind on the graveyard shift, claiming his own phone is sending him warnings. They'd laugh, or worse, they'd pity me. I can't stand pity. The photos have changed. They're no longer just of me asleep at my desk or lying in bed. They're closer, angled, strange. Sometimes I see shapes behind me, shapes I don't recognize. Blurred hands on my shoulders, faces in the walls. Other times, it's just me standing in a place I've never been, a corridor that doesn't exist, a room that isn't part of the building. Last night, I got a message at 3:03 a.m. It was just words. Look closer. I almost threw the phone across the room. Instead, I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Another photo arrived. Me, sitting at my desk at the building, eyes wide, staring at the camera. But there was something wrong. The desk in the photo wasn't my desk. The room wasn't my office. The walls were the same color, the same fluorescent lights, but they bent ever so slightly like soft clay pressed by invisible hands. I can't explain it. I just know that the building is changing. Or maybe I am. Tonight, I had to go back. I don't know why. Something about the messages made it feel inevitable, like a path already laid out for me. My supervisor had given up checking in. I think he assumes I quit. But I went back anyway, swiped my badge. The door opened without the usual beep, just a soft hiss. Inside, the air felt heavier than before, like stepping into a basement after rain. The lights were dimmer, flickering, the shadows stretching too long across the walls. My boots sounded strange against the floor, dull, like walking on packed earth instead of tile. I sat at the desk, staring at the monitors. Blank, dead, no feeds at all. My phone buzzed. Another photo. It was me sitting at the desk, but my eyes were closed. I glanced at my reflection in the black screen of one of the dead monitors. My eyes were open, wide, bloodshot. My breath caught in my throat. Another message arrived. You're almost there. I wanted to leave. I stood up, bag in hand. The room seemed to shift slightly, like a subtle tilt in a dream. The hallway outside the office stretched longer than it should, doors that had never been there lining the walls. My phone buzzed again. Another photo. This one froze me where I stood. It was me standing exactly where I was, but there were hands, gray, pale hands, sliding out of the walls around me, reaching. My throat tightened. My knees went weak. I whispered to myself, "It's not real. It's not real." But the walls whispered back. It was my voice. All of them layered over each other. Soft, insistent. "We see you." I staggered backward, bumping into the desk. The phone slipped from my fingers and landed face up, screen glowing. Another photo. This one of me, but closer, as if whoever, whatever was taking the pictures had stepped forward. Behind me in the image, the wall had opened slightly, like a mouth. I grabbed the phone and ran. Out of the office, into the hall. My boots hit the floor, but the sound was wrong now, wet, muffled, like walking through sand. The doors along the hallway were all open a crack. Inside, I saw glimpses of things that couldn't be there. A hospital bed, a row of chairs, a childhood bedroom. Fragments of places I knew but had forgotten. The phone buzzed in my hand. A message? Come home? I didn't know where to go. The exit sign ahead glowed faintly, but the hallway stretched farther than it should, the red letters receding with every step. I turned, and there was the stairwell, except it was wrong. The stairs led up and down at the same time, spiraling like a corkscrew. I took a step back. The walls pulsed faintly like something breathing. Another photo. Me, standing at the threshold of the stairwell, hands pressing out from the walls, just about to touch me. I dropped the phone and bolted, picking a door at random. It swung open into darkness. Not an office, not a room, just a narrow corridor lined with peeling paint. The air was damp, heavy with a smell like earth and static electricity. I don't remember how long I walked. My phone vibrated in my pocket with every step, but I didn't look at it. I couldn't. The corridor twisted and turned, sometimes splitting in two, sometimes narrowing so much I had to turn sideways. The walls were warm under my hands. Sometimes I thought I felt them tremble. Then the messages changed. No more photos. Just words, one after another, filling the screen. We are here. We are inside. We have always been inside. I stumbled to my knees. The phone buzzed again. A final message blinked on the screen. Look at the walls. I raised my head. Shapes moved under the paint, pale and shifting. Eyes maybe, faces, mouths opening and closing, whispering my name in my own voice. The sound was everywhere, inside my skull, under my skin. I pressed my palms against my ears, but it didn't help. My own voice whispered from the walls, "We see you. We know you. You're ours now." The corridor opened into a room. My desk, my chair, my monitors, but everything bent. The angles wrong, the screens blank and glowing faintly. My phone slipped from my hand. It hit the floor and the screen cracked. Another photo appeared, unbidden. Me, standing in the room, my eyes black, mouth slightly open. The walls behind me full of faces. I reached for the phone, but my hand didn't feel like my hand anymore. The walls pulsed again, closer now. The whispering grew louder until it wasn't whispering at all. It was breathing. It was everywhere. I tried to run, but the floor softened under my boots. The walls stretched forward like wet paper, gray hands sliding out, gripping my arms, my shoulders, my face. Cold, smooth, familiar. I screamed, but it was my own voice answering me. Dozens of me. Hundreds. The phone buzzed one last time. A message, plain and simple. I can see them in the walls, and then the walls opened. I don't remember what happened after that. Only the feeling of falling forward, of being pulled through, of every voice I had ever had calling me by my name. When they found the building later, it was empty. My desk was there. My bag, my coat, my phone on the floor, screen glowing. On it, a single unsent message, typed but never delivered. They're watching. I can see them in the walls. I still remember my first night on patrol like it was a dream I can't wake from. I was fresh out of training, eager, thinking that a security job would be routine. Just walking halls, checking doors, making sure nothing went wrong. But the building had a silence I'd never experienced, a quiet so deep it pressed against my ears and made my heartbeat feel loud enough to echo. I swiped my badge and entered the main lobby. Everything looked normal. The lights hummed faintly above, the reception desk gleamed, and the elevators were still. Too still. I should have seen cleaning staff, maybe late-night deliveries, people moving somewhere. But there was nothing. No hum of a fridge, no faint music from a distant office, not even the scratch of a pen on a pad. Just nothing. I laughed nervously to myself, shaking my head. It's my first night. You're overthinking it. But the words sounded hollow, even to me. I tried to settle in, walking down the main corridor toward the elevator banks. Every step I took was muffled against the carpet, but somehow the silence made it feel louder. My boots sounded like thunder. I stopped at the first floor, checking the monitor screens. CCTV feeds covered the building, but most of the cameras were dead or flickering. When I tried to call in over the radio, there was a faint crackle and then nothing, just silence. My fingers trembled slightly over the handset, gripping it like a lifeline. I started my patrol. Floor by floor, hallway by hallway, opening doors, checking offices. Each room looked abandoned, but normal. Chairs pushed in, computers asleep, papers stacked neatly, and yet the emptiness didn't feel right. I could feel it. The building was awake in some way, watching me back. I paused in one long corridor on the third floor. The fluorescent lights above flickered once, then stabilized. I swear I saw a shadow flick at the end of the hall, a subtle shift that made my skin crawl. I stopped, waited. Nothing moved. My mind told me it was my imagination, that it was just nerves. I tried to push it aside, telling myself this is what patrols feel like. Quiet, dull, uneventful, but the quiet was different here. It wasn't just empty, it was oppressive. The air seemed thick, the kind that sits heavy in your lungs. I kept moving, hands brushing against the wall for reassurance. Every door I opened, every step I took, the silence followed. No hum of a ventilation system, no distant clatter, nothing. I began to notice how loud my own breathing sounded. At the stairwell, I hesitated. My hand rested on the cold metal railing. There was a faint draft, almost imperceptible, carrying the smell of dust and something else. Something old, metallic, faint like rust. I told myself I was imagining things, that old buildings have weird smells, but the feeling stayed, wrapping around me, pressing me against the walls. I kept walking. The top floors were worse. The lights flickered more, casting shadows that twisted against the walls. Some corners were darker than others, almost black, and I found myself slowing down, straining my eyes. The silence was constant, but not passive. It felt alive, like it was listening, waiting. I checked the offices along the top floor. Nothing. Computers off, chairs tucked in, papers neat. And yet there was a sensation that someone, or something, had just been there. The air was warmer in certain rooms, like a body had passed through moments ago. I shook my head. Maybe I was too tired. My first night. My mind was making tricks of light and temperature. I walked past a glass conference room and froze. My reflection looked wrong. Not in a horror movie sense, but subtly wrong. I looked taller than I should have. My shoulders hunched slightly. My eyes darker. I blinked and it was gone. Just my reflection. Normal, correct. I swallowed hard. I moved down the hall toward the emergency exits. They were locked, as usual, but one had a faint light under the door. I approached slowly. The door felt colder than metal should feel. I pressed my hand against it. No vibration, no hum, just cold, silence, and then a faint click, like the door had moved on its own. I jumped back. My radio crackled suddenly. Just a whisper, barely audible, static. Then a sound like someone muttering, impossible to understand. I pressed the button to respond. Nothing, just static. I felt my pulse spike. I gripped the radio tighter, turning in circles, searching. But I was alone. I was certain of it. The building didn't contain anyone else. I tried to laugh, muttered to myself, "First night jitters? Just nerves. You're fine." But the words sounded strange. The quiet swallowed them. The building didn't answer. It didn't acknowledge. It simply existed, watching, waiting. I continued my rounds. Floor by floor, office by office, stairwell by stairwell. The silence never broke. My own voice sounded alien in the hallways when I muttered reminders to myself, when I called out the empty corridors. The walls didn't answer. They didn't echo, they just absorbed. I found the security office eventually. Monitors flickered briefly as I sat down. Some feeds were still dead. Others were active but empty, just hallways stretching into darkness. I leaned back, rubbing my face. My hands were sweaty. My stomach knotted. I tried to make sense of it. Maybe the building had been empty for weeks. Maybe the night shift was just naturally this quiet. But I knew. Deep down, I knew it was different. I could feel it in my bones. The silence wasn't just absence. It was presence. Something in the walls, something between the floors, something in the hum of the lights, watching me, studying me. And I hadn't even noticed it yet. Not really. I stayed at the desk for what felt like hours, eyes scanning the monitors, listening, waiting for any sign of life, any sound, any movement. But nothing. Only the quiet, and the way it made me think about every creak of the building, every flicker of a light, every shadow crossing the edge of my vision. I remember glancing at the clock. 2:37 a.m., a long way to go before my shift ended. I felt the weight of the night pressing down, not heavy in the sense of tiredness, but in the sense of being observed. The building wasn't just empty. It was aware. And I was aware that it knew I was here. I wanted to tell someone. I wanted to call my supervisor. But the radios were dead, phones silent. There was no one else. Just me and the building. And the quiet. That wasn't quiet at all. I sank back in my chair, trying to steady my racing thoughts. Tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, that first-night nerves always made things worse than they were. But deep down, I knew better. That silence, it was alive, patient, waiting. And I had just begun my first patrol. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Shadows play tricks at night, right? I had been on patrol for a week now, and the silence of the building still pressed against me like a living thing. But tonight it felt heavier, denser. The hum of the fluorescent lights buzzed low in my ears, and I could almost feel the air vibrating, like the walls were holding their breath. I started my rounds on the second floor, radio clipped to my shoulder, flashlight in hand. Every step echoed too clearly. bouncing off walls that shouldn't have reflected sound so sharply. I passed the conference rooms, the offices, the storage closets. Nothing moved. Nothing. And then I saw it. A shadow flitted along the far wall of the hall. Too fast to be my imagination. Too unnatural. I froze, heart hammering. My flashlight shook in my hand. The shadow was darker than the others, denser, moving like it had a mind of its own. I blinked, and it was gone. Probably just a trick of the light, I muttered to myself. My voice sounded tinny in the empty corridor. I forced myself to move, flashlight sweeping from side to side. Nothing. The shadow hadn't returned. I kept walking, but the feeling of being watched didn't leave me. Every corner, every doorway seemed to breathe. The building wasn't just quiet, it was aware. I could feel it in my chest, low and insistent, like a pulse that wasn't my own. The radio crackled suddenly. Just static at first. I froze, gripping it tighter. Then a whisper, barely audible, "Go back!" My stomach dropped. I pressed the button, ready to call my supervisor, but only static answered. I moved faster down the hallway, eyes scanning every shadow. Another movement. Across the wall, the shape shifted, elongated, then shrank back like water running down a surface. I spun, trying to catch it, but the corner was empty. I started muttering to myself, trying to stay calm. It's nothing. Just nerves. Shadows don't move like that. But even as I said it, I felt the air tighten around me, as if the walls themselves were leaning in, listening. I reached the stairwell and paused. The light above flickered, briefly plunging the steps into darkness. I could see faint, impossible shapes in the corners, shapes that weren't there before. I swallowed hard. My hand hovered over the railing. The stairwell smelled damp and metallic, like something had been left to rot. I climbed cautiously, each step echoing in the emptiness. Halfway up, I felt a brush against my arm. I spun, flashlight slicing the shadows. Nothing, just the wall. My heartbeat raced. My skin prickled. I tried to shake it off. First weak nerves, I told myself. You're fine. On the top floor, it was worse. The shadows were thicker here, pooling in corners, stretching along the ceiling like smoke. I saw one shift along the wall behind a door I hadn't noticed before. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to step closer, to confront it, but my instincts screamed to run. The radio crackled again. Static, then the whisper, "Don't move." I froze. My mind spun. "Don't move?" What the hell was going on? I glanced at the walls, flashlight sweeping. The shadows stretched toward me, shifting independently of the light. I couldn't explain it. They weren't just cast by objects. They moved against the walls where nothing was standing, shapes bending and twisting as if alive. I tried to call out to my supervisor. "Hello? Is anyone there?" My voice sounded small, swallowed by the building. The shadows pulsed in response, like a heartbeat matching mine. I backed away toward the stairwell, but the doors along the hallway were different. I'd checked them earlier, but now they looked older, warped, slightly open where I remembered them closed. I reached one, the metal handle cold beneath my fingers. I pushed gently. It didn't budge. The shadows shifted closer. A long, dark shape stretched along the wall toward me. I could see the edges of it quivering like liquid. My pulse thumped in my ears. I pressed my back against the wall, radio in hand. Another crackle, another whisper. "You can't leave!" I spun, flashlight sweeping. Nothing, just walls, just doors, just the shadows moving with a will of their own. I stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet, my hand slamming onto a door handle. This one moved slightly under my grip. I yanked it open and the hallway beyond was different, narrower, darker, twisting. Not like I'd remembered. I swallowed hard, chest tight. I realized then that the building itself was changing. Subtle at first, but undeniable. Hallways bent slightly, doors shifted. Walls that had been straight now curved inward. And the shadows moved with it. They weren't random. They were deliberate, watching, waiting. I reached for my radio, hoping for a lifeline. Static, only static. I pressed the button again. The whisper came, clear this time. "You're ours!" I staggered backward, knocking over a trash can. Its contents spilled across the floor, papers fluttering like trapped birds. The shadows absorbed them instantly, dark shapes flowing over the scattered sheets, flattening them into the floor. I couldn't breathe. I ran down the hallway, flashlight bouncing, heart racing. The walls warped around me. A door I had passed earlier was suddenly in front of me, half open. I peered inside, empty, but the shadows inside pulsed like they were breathing. I took a step back, and my reflection in the glass of a nearby office door. It smiled. My face didn't smile. My eyes were wide, terrified. The reflection moved independently, mimicking me with a delay. I swallowed hard and sprinted toward the stairwell. My boots pounded against the warped floor, echoing in a distorted rhythm. Every shadow stretched, lunged, recoiled, then shifted in ways I couldn't predict. I tripped again, landing hard on my hands. The radio crackled one last time before going dead. Whispered words, "You will never leave." I forced myself upright and reached the stairwell. The stairs, which had seemed normal before, were twisted now, spiraling unnaturally upward. My flashlight's beam caught something in the corner of my vision. Another shadow, crouching, waiting. I froze. I could feel its gaze, even though there was no face. It was patient, calm, like it had all the time in the world. I swallowed, voice shaking. "I'm just patrolling, just doing my job." The shadow stretched toward me, a ribbon of darkness along the wall, and I stumbled backward. My back hit the railing. I could feel it pressing, breathing against me. The lights above flickered violently. For a moment, the whole floor went dark. Then back on, and the hallway ahead seemed longer, twisting into itself. I had to get out. I had to call someone. But the radio was dead. The stairs were twisted. The doors along the hallway had shifted again. The shadows pulsed, moving with intention, shaping the building into something unrecognizable. I took a shaky breath. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but where? The shadows filled every corner. Every wall, every ceiling, every door. There was no path. Only the watching, only the silence that wasn't silent at all. I backed into a corner, flashlight trembling. My pulse rattled in my ears. The shadows flowed toward me slowly, deliberately, a tide of darkness. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to disappear, but it was useless. They already knew where I was. They had always known. I realized then that the building wasn't empty. It never had been. The shadows were its residents. Patient. Watching. Waiting. And now, they had found me. I stayed there for hours, shivering, eyes wide, listening to the hum of the lights and the subtle movement of shadows along walls where no one should have been. The radio remained dead, silent, except for faint, impossible whispers. And I knew. I knew that when the sun rose, when anyone came in the morning, they wouldn't see what had been here tonight. They wouldn't see the shadows, the twisting hallways, the walls that breathed. Only I would remember. Only I would know, because they had marked me. And the building doesn't let go. I didn't sleep when I got home after that shift. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. The shadows had followed me into my dreams, even when I was awake. I thought about quitting, about never going back, but something in me, pride, maybe, or just plain denial, forced me to return the next night. It was quiet when I came in. Too quiet again. Even the front lobby felt like a sealed box. The hum of the fluorescent lights wasn't just background noise anymore. It had a pattern, a low, pulsing throb like a heartbeat buried deep in the walls. I tried to keep my routine. Clipboard, flashlight, radio, walked the perimeter. Check the doors. But my stomach knotted as soon as I stepped into the stairwell. The air felt heavier than the night before, warmer, like someone had exhaled and forgotten to stop. I kept telling myself, just make it through tonight. Just one more round, but my voice sounded small, like I was whispering into a cavern. On the third floor, the doors felt different under my hands, heavy, the handles colder than before, slick with some faint condensation. I swiped my badge at the first door. The green light blinked. I pushed, locked. That wasn't right. These doors weren't supposed to be locked from the inside. I tried another door. Locked. Another. Locked. My heart thumped harder. I swiped my badge again and again, but each door beeped red now, low and flat. I reached for my radio. "Control, this is Singh. Are the doors supposed to be locked?" My voice cracked halfway through. Static. Then a hiss. Then nothing. I pressed the button again, harder. "Control, hello?" A faint whisper came through, just like before. "Stay where you are!" I froze. My breath clouded faintly, though the hallway wasn't cold. "Who is this?" I asked. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. No answer. I felt the building shift under my feet. Just a tremor, but enough to make me steady myself against the wall. The paint felt warm, almost alive. I headed back toward the stairwell, determined to get to the lobby. My boots echoed, but slower now, like the sound was thick with syrup. The stairwell door was ahead of me. I pushed it open and stopped dead. The stairwell didn't look right. The stairs curved up and down into darkness, twisting slightly as if they were part of a spiral shell. The handrails were warped, bent inward, like hands reaching out. My flashlight flickered, and for a heartbeat I saw figures standing at each landing, unmoving, faceless, blending into the concrete. I shut the door fast. My hands were shaking now. I pressed my forehead to the cool metal, trying to breathe. I had to find another way out. I moved down the hallway again, trying every door. Each one beeped red, the handles unmoving. My breathing grew ragged. The ceiling above me creaked and faint dust drifted down. The lights flickered again. In the brief darkness, I saw the shadows move, long, stretching fingers sliding along the walls, reaching for me. When the lights came back on, they froze in place, just stains of darkness. I backed away, my flashlight trembling. "Stop," I said aloud, though I didn't know who I was talking to. "Just stop." The radio hissed, then whispered, "We're coming." I dropped it. The sound of it clattering on the floor echoed forever, like the building was savoring it. I grabbed my flashlight with both hands like it was a weapon. I turned the next corner, heart hammering. The hallway stretched longer than before, as if someone had pulled it like taffy. Halfway down, I heard a door slam, then another. Then another. Bang, bang, bang. Each slam echoed louder, closer, until it was right behind me. I spun around, but the hall was empty. The shadows at my feet shifted slightly, pooling in strange shapes. I started running. My boots pounded against the warped floor. The walls bent inward, closing in. Every door I tried rattled, but wouldn't open. My badge beeped red no matter what. Finally, I stopped, gasping, bent over. The hall was quiet again. The air smelled like rust and damp paper. I straightened slowly, scanning the walls. Something had changed. The framed emergency maps I'd passed before now showed different layouts. Rooms where there had been none. Entire hallways gone. I stumbled toward the nearest map, pressing my hand to the glass. It felt warm. Beneath my palm, the ink seemed to shift slightly, like it was bleeding. The radio hissed again, softer this time. "Look behind you." I spun so fast I nearly fell. At the far end of the hallway, a shape stood in the shadows. Not moving, not breathing. Just there. It had no features, just a darker outline against the dim light. I blinked. It was gone. My skin crawled. My heartbeat pounded so hard it hurt. I backed up until my shoulders hit the wall. The paint pulsed faintly under my shirt. Another whisper. "We're closer." I shoved the radio into my belt, grabbed my flashlight, and bolted. The hall bent left when I expected right. The doors blurred past. Everyone locked. 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 My boots slipped on the slick floor as I turned another corner and slammed into a dead end. It hadn't been there before. I pounded on the wall with my fists. Solid. No seam, no door, just concrete. Behind me, the hallway was darker now. The shadows stretched along the floor like spilled oil. They pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. I pressed myself against the wall, whispering to myself, "Wake up. You're dreaming. This isn't real." The building seemed to exhale. A low groan rolled through the walls, deep and slow. Then every door in the hall clicked shut at once. Click, click, click. I clamped my hands over my ears, but I could still feel the sound in my chest. My flashlight flickered and went out. I smacked it against my palm. It came back on, dim, weak. The shadows had grown. They reached from the ceiling, the floor, the walls. They didn't just stretch anymore. They curled, clawed, slid like living things. I stumbled backward. "Please," I whispered. "I just want to go home." A low voice whispered back through the radio. "You are home." My breath hitched. My vision swam. I dropped to my knees, clutching the flashlight. The hallway pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Then silence. I don't know how long I stayed there, crouched on the floor, staring at the warped walls. The shadows didn't move again. The radio stayed quiet. The building felt like it was waiting, patient. Finally, I stood, swaying. I picked a door at random, swiped my badge. Red beep. I kicked it. Nothing. Another door. Red. Another. Red. The building had locked me in, and I realized with a cold clarity that went straight to my bones that I wasn't alone anymore. Not really. Something was on this floor with me. It was moving slower than shadows, quieter than breathing. Watching. Always watching. I could feel its gaze through the walls. I gripped my flashlight until my knuckles ached. My reflection in the glass panel of a nearby door looked pale, eyes wide. For a second it smiled again, even though I didn't. The radio hissed once more. One final whisper, "You're not going anywhere." I stayed there, staring at my own trembling hands, the shadows curling at my feet like smoke. The building creaked softly, like it was satisfied. And that's when I knew I was trapped. Not just in the building, but in something much bigger. Something that had been here long before me. Something that had just decided I belonged to it. The next night wasn't supposed to happen. After what I went through being locked on the top floor, I swore I'd never step foot inside again. But by morning, the building had released me. Somehow, the stairwell had straightened itself. The doors had unlocked, and the lobby looked normal again, like none of it had ever happened. I tried to tell my supervisor. He stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. Locked doors? Twisting stairwells? Sing, you're exhausted. You've been pulling doubles all week. Go home, sleep, and come back tomorrow. I should have quit, but I didn't. That night I wasn't alone. 4 other guards were on shift with me. 2 were veterans, Rahman and Bilal, both older guys who'd worked security for years. The other 2 were new like me, quiet and nervous. We huddled in the control room before our rounds. Rahman laughed when I told them about the doors. Old buildings creak. Systems glitch. You spooked yourself, brother. But when I looked at his eyes, there was something there. A flicker of unease quickly hidden. We split up. I stuck close to Bilal for the first part of the night. It helped, having someone to talk to, even if it was small talk. His footsteps echoed beside mine, steady, reassuring. But as we made our way down the second-floor hallway, something felt off. The air pressed heavier than before, like a blanket thrown over the building. The hum of the lights was louder now, a droning note I could feel in my teeth. "Do you hear that?" I asked. Bilal frowned. "Hear what?" "That humming." "It's louder," he shook his head. Same as always. But I could see the fine tremor in his hand as he adjusted his flashlight. We reached the stairwell landing. I hesitated. The door looked the same, but something in me recoiled. "You go first," I muttered. Bilal pushed it open, stepped through. I followed and froze. The stairwell looked normal. Concrete walls, metal railing, but the shadows. They clung thicker in the corners, moving slightly like they were breathing. Bilal's voice cracked. "Feels colder in here." We started up toward the 3rd floor. Halfway up, my radio hissed. Static. Then a whisper, faint but clear. "Don't separate." I stopped, heart hammering. "Did you hear that?" Bilal paused, looked back. "Hear what?" I lifted the radio. It said, but the static was gone. We reached the 3rd floor. The door opened easily this time, but the hallway was different. The lights flickered overhead. The walls looked stretched, the paint warped in subtle waves. Bilal cleared his throat. "Let's finish the sweep quick." We checked the offices one by one. All empty. But in every room, something was off. A chair turned toward the wall, a computer left on with a blank screen, blinds drawn tightly even though they'd been open earlier. I felt watched. Every second. Halfway down the hall, Bilal stopped. "Rahman?" He called into his radio. "We're on 3. Where are you?" Static. He tried again. "Rahman?" A faint whisper came back. Too late. Bilal frowned. "Who was that?" I didn't answer. We reached the last office. Bilal pushed the door open, empty. Just a desk, a chair, a blinking monitor. But the shadows in the far corner shifted when our lights hit them. I froze. "Do you see that?" Bilal squinted. "It's just..." Then the light flickered and the corner was empty. My heart thumped. "We should find the others." We headed back to the stairwell. The hall felt longer now. The doors on either side seemed older, darker, like they'd been here for decades. We turned the corner and stopped. Raymond was standing at the far end of the hallway, facing away from us. "Raymond," Bilal called. He didn't move. We walked closer. "Hey man, you okay?" Still no movement. We were 10 feet away when the lights flickered again. For a split second, the hallway went dark. When they came back on, Raymond was gone. Bilal swore under his breath. "Where'd he go?" I turned in a slow circle. The hall was empty, silent. "Raymond!" I shouted. No answer. We ran to where he'd been standing. Nothing. Just an empty stretch of floor. The walls here felt warmer, the shadows darker. Bilal grabbed his radio. "Raymond, come in!" "Where are you?" Static. Then a whisper. We took him. Bilal's eyes widened. "What the hell was that?" I backed against the wall, clutching my flashlight. "We need to leave now." We sprinted toward the stairwell. The door was locked. I swiped my badge. "Red beep." Bilal swiped his. "Red beep." He pounded on it. "Open! Open!" Behind us, a door creaked open slowly. We spun around. The office door at the far end was ajar. "Just an inch." Bilal's breathing quickened. "Don't." But something in me needed to look. I stepped toward the door, flashlight trembling. I pushed it open slowly, empty. Just another office, but on the desk was a security badge. Raymond's badge. I stumbled back, nearly tripping. "He's gone." Bilal's face was pale. "This isn't real." "It can't be real." We ran again, trying every door. All locked. Then Bilal's radio hissed. "You're next." He dropped it like it had burned him. "I'm done. I'm done." We reached the control room door. Locked. Bilal banged on it with both fists. "Open the damn door!" The lights flickered again. For a heartbeat, the hall went dark. When they came back on, Bilal was gone. I spun in circles, heart racing. "Bilal!" Nothing. I stumbled forward, calling his name, my voice echoing down the empty hall. No answer. On the floor where he'd been standing, his flashlight rolled slowly, casting long, thin beams that bent as they hit the walls. I grabbed it, my hands shaking. "No, no, no, no!" I pressed my back to the wall, breathing hard. My radio hissed again. "You're alone now." I shut my eyes, trying to will it away. But when I opened them, the hallway was different again. Longer, darker. The shadows pulsed like living veins along the walls. I walked slowly, hugging the wall, both flashlights trembling in my hands. Every door I passed seemed to watch me. The glass panels reflected not me, but empty corridors, wrong angles, faces I didn't recognize, flickering just out of sight. I called the others again. No answer. The control room was gone. The stairwell was gone. Even the exit signs had changed, pointing to nowhere. I stopped, chest heaving. I realized the building wasn't just locking me in. It was erasing them, one by one, and I was next. I sank to the floor, pressing my forehead to my knees. The whispers grew louder now, overlapping. Hundreds of voices just under the surface of the walls. Stay. Watch. Hours. I covered my ears, but the sound came from inside my head now. The lights flickered again. In the darkness, I saw them, figures moving along the walls, tall and faceless, their hands pressing through the paint like it was wet clay. When the lights came back, the walls were smooth, but the impressions of fingers remained, faint and dark. I scrambled to my feet. "Please," I whispered. "Please let me go." The radio hissed one last time. "You are one of us now," I ran. Down the hall, around corners that didn't exist before, past doors that whispered as I passed. The building was shifting faster now, walls pulsing like a heartbeat. I turned one last corner and stopped. In front of me, the hallway ended in a mirror, floor to ceiling. I hadn't seen it before. I stared at my reflection. Pale face, wide eyes, 2 flashlights trembling. Then my reflection smiled. I didn't. It raised its hand and pressed it to the glass. I backed away, heart hammering. The glass rippled slightly, like water. I turned and ran. But the hallway was gone. I don't remember when it happened exactly. One night I was still a man patrolling floors, checking doors, hoping for a quiet shift. The next I was part of the building. Not inside it physically, not yet, but inside it in a way I can't explain. After the others vanished, the hallways stretched endlessly. The shadows thickened, pulsing along walls, creeping closer with every step I took. I tried to run. I tried to hide. But the building was patient. It doesn't chase. It waits. It pulls. I remember the first time I realized I wasn't going to leave. I had sprinted toward a stairwell, desperate, thinking I could reach the lobby, escape, call someone, anyone. But when I reached it, the stairs twisted upward impossibly, spiraling into darkness, while the landing below opened into a floor that shouldn't exist. I tried to turn back and the hallway behind me had vanished. I screamed. My voice was swallowed instantly, absorbed into the walls, bouncing back distorted in my own ears. My flashlight beam jittered across surfaces that shouldn't have been there, doors opening into rooms that didn't exist, corridors bending in angles I hadn't seen before. The radio crackled one last time. Static, then words I'll never forget. Welcome home. I realized then, the building wasn't just taking us. It was remaking us. Those who vanished weren't gone. They had become extensions of the walls, the shadows, the hum between the floors. Watching, waiting, I could feel them. They whispered sometimes, voices barely audible, overlapping in the corners of my mind. I tried to scream again, and this time the sound came out. But it wasn't my voice. It was the overlapping chorus of the others, low and calm, calling my name, laughing softly in a way that made my chest tighten. I ran blindly. Corridors twisting into each other, ceilings slanting down impossibly low. The shadows were everywhere, curling along the floors, pressing against my legs, climbing walls. Every corner I turned, I thought I saw one of the missing guards' shapes, standing still, silent, faceless. I stumbled into a room. It looked like the control room, our old hub, blinking monitors now showing only endless corridors filled with shadows. My own reflection appeared in the glass of one monitor. My eyes were wide, pale. My mouth opened, but no sound came. And then the reflection smiled. I knew it wasn't me. The walls pulsed, warm and alive under my fingers. I pressed my hands against them. They weren't cold like metal or stone. They throbbed, breathing, patient. I pressed my face to the wall and I could hear it whispering, "We are here. We are home. You are home." Time lost all meaning. Minutes, hours, days, they blended into a slow, pulsing eternity. I wandered the hallways endlessly. Every door I tried was locked, every stairwell twisted, every corridor folded into another. The building was no longer a structure. It was a labyrinth of endless observation. I began to notice myself changing. My steps were lighter. My shadow stretched longer, thinner, moving slightly behind me as if it had a will of its own. The walls seemed to respond to me, bending ever so slightly when I walked past. I realized my presence mattered. The building wasn't just holding me, it was shaping me, molding me, teaching me to exist in its silence. I wasn't alone anymore. The others were here, in the walls, in the floors, in the shadows. Sometimes I saw glimpses. A hand pressed against a wall, a face in a flicker of light, a pair of eyes blinking from the dark. They didn't move, didn't speak. Except when they did, whispering names, memories, fragments of conversations that had never happened. I tried to resist, tried to run, tried to leave, but there was nowhere to go. The lobby, the stairwells, the exit doors, they were illusions. The building had claimed them all. And me, I began to understand the truth. This is what happens to those who vanish. They don't die. They become the building's eyes, its ears, its patience. They watch, they wait, and eventually, they forget themselves entirely. I remember walking past a corridor once. The lights flickered, and for a moment I saw Bilal's face reflected in the glossy floor. His eyes were wide, terrified. Then he disappeared. The reflection remained, smiling faintly. I didn't recognize it as him anymore. I realized with a chill I can't describe that I had walked past him countless times without noticing. The building had folded him into itself, and so it had begun to fold me. Time passed differently here. My mind struggled to hold on to days. Sometimes I remembered patrols, radios, flashlights, doors locking. Other times I only remembered the hum of the walls, the shifting shadows, the endless corridors. I learned to move silently, to watch without being seen. The shadows responded to me. I could hear the whispers now, hundreds of them, guiding me, reminding me, teaching me. I don't think I can leave anymore. I don't want to. I remember trying once, pushing toward what I thought was the exit, heart hammering, mouth dry. But the hallway stretched longer than it could. The stairs spiraled upward into darkness. The doors warped and shimmered like water. I pressed my hands against a wall and felt faces behind the paint, pressing out, reaching. I screamed, and the sound came out as hundreds of voices calling each other's names. That's when I realized it. I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was being welcomed. I've become part of the building now. Not fully human, not fully stone. My eyes catch things no one else can see. My ears hear what no one else can hear. I know every shadow, every whisper, every creak in the ceiling. I am watching always. I am waiting, always. Sometimes a new guard arrives. I see them on the monitors, or rather I see where they will be. They walk confidently at first. Their boots echo in the empty hallways. Their radios crackle softly. I follow. I watch them move past the corners where shadows pool. I study their faces as they look at doors that won't open, corridors that shift under their feet. I used to hope they'd make it. I used to hope someone would survive. But the building is patient, so I watch them stumble, hesitate, panic. And when they vanish, like Raymond, Bilal, the others, I fold them into the walls, the floors, the shadows. I am no longer just a man. I am the building's eyes, its voice, its patience. I am what waits behind the doors. I am what watches from the corners. Sometimes I catch my reflection in the glass doors or in the glossy tiles. My face is pale. My eyes are wide. My mouth sometimes moves without sound. And I realize I am smiling. A new guard arrives tonight. His boots echo down the hallway. I can feel him. I know where he will turn. I know where he will hesitate. I watch him approach the first floor. He swipes his badge. The light glows green. He smiles faintly, unaware. I follow, just out of sight, inside the walls, in the shadows. The radio hisses softly, but no one else is listening. I know the whispers already. I know the path he will take. And when the building folds him in, like it folded us all, he will become one of us. And I will be here, watching, always. The hum of the lights pulses through me. The walls breathe beneath my hands. The shadows curl and shift. I am home, alone forever. I don't know why I keep doing this job. Maybe it's the quiet. Maybe it's the idea that I can disappear into a place that's so empty, it feels like it belongs to no one. Tonight, the parking lot stretches out before me like a black ocean, asphalt waves fading into the darkness. The fluorescent lamps are few and far between, their light sickly and weak, flickering sometimes like they're unsure they want to stay on. I check my watch, 2:13 a.m., and the silence presses against me like a living thing. I start my patrol from the security booth at the far edge of the lot. The small fluorescent light inside humming quietly. The walls plastered with faded "no trespassing" signs. I nod at the camera screens, each one showing a different corner of this endless expanse. All of them empty, all of them still. My flashlight feels heavy in my hand tonight, its beam narrow and fragile. The darkness around me seems almost alive, leaning closer, waiting for me to step out from under the booth's thin circle of light. The first row of cars is deserted, a mix of sedans and SUVs. I run my fingers over the hoods as I walk past, the metal cold and unyielding. There's a faint smell of wet asphalt and oil, like the lot had been washed recently, but not well enough. I pull my jacket tighter around me. It's early fall, but the wind cuts straight through the fabric. I hear a distant sound, a car door shutting, soft and muffled. I stop. My flashlight scans the lot, the beam bouncing off the sides of cars. Nothing moves. I tell myself it's probably another security guard at the other side of the complex, or maybe someone left a car running and ran inside. But the lot is huge, and I'm supposed to be the only one here. I take a slow breath and keep walking. The sound fading into the night. The lamps above me flicker, and for a moment, I feel exposed. Like a stage actor in a play where the audience can see everything I try to hide. The shadows are sharp, cutting across the pavement in angles that don't make sense. I squint. For a split second, I think I see something move, a dark shape between two rows of cars. But when I blink, it's gone. My pulse quickens. I tell myself it's a trick of the light, nothing more. I round the corner and reach the far end of the lot where the streetlights are dimmer and the shadows grow longer, heavier. I run my flashlight over the pavement, over the cars. Everything is still. The hum of the lamps is constant, but even that feels louder here, echoing in the emptiness. I take a deep breath, letting my chest fill and then release it slowly. This is my job. I tell myself this. I should be used to this. As I move down the next row, my boots scrape against something on the ground. I crouch, shining the flashlight. A piece of paper, maybe torn from a flyer or an old receipt, flutters weakly in the wind. I pick it up. Nothing written on it, just blank. I drop it and continue. I can feel the tension in my shoulders, a tight coil winding tighter with every step. The lot has a smell tonight that I can't place. It's faint, but it makes the hair on my arms stand up, like rain on metal mixed with something earthy, like wet leaves, but sharper, almost.
Wrong, I shake my head.
I shouldn't be thinking like that. I shouldn't be imagining things. I keep my eyes on the rows of parked cars. Everything seems normal, perfectly ordinary. I reach the middle of the lot. From here, I can see the entire expanse stretched out behind me, shadows and lines converging in the dim glow of the lamps. It's quiet, too quiet. I tell myself again it's normal, that this is just how it is at night. But my instincts are pricking at me, whispering that I'm not alone. I check my flashlight. Battery's full. I check the camera feed on my belt. Everything's still, nothing moving. I start my slow circle back toward the booth. The wind picks up, stirring the empty soda cans and pieces of trash across the asphalt. They roll and clatter, tiny echoes bouncing across the lot. I catch a movement in the corner of my eye, a reflection off a car window. I spin, but there's nothing there. I swallow hard. My voice trembles when I mutter, "Get a grip." Every step back toward the booth feels heavier than the last. The sound of my boots on the pavement seems unnaturally loud, each impact echoing across the empty space. I glance up at the lamps. One of them flickers violently, then steadies. I breathe out slowly. My flashlight's beam shakes slightly as I keep walking, my eyes darting to every shadow, every corner. A distant noise makes me freeze. A soft thump, then another, then another. It's rhythmic, almost like footsteps. But there's no one visible in the beam of my flashlight. My chest tightens. I stand very still, listening. The thumping stops. I take a step. Nothing. Another step. Silence. I shake my head, trying to calm myself. The lot is empty. It has to be empty. I reach the row closest to the booth. The hum of the fluorescent light seems to deepen, filling the space around me. My flashlight sweeps over the cars. Everything is the same, nothing out of place. But for a brief moment, I think I see someone, or something, standing behind a blue sedan. I stop, frozen. The shape doesn't move, doesn't breathe, and then as quickly as it appeared, it's gone. My stomach twists. I speed up my pace, my boots tapping faster on the asphalt, heading toward the safety of the booth. The wind rattles a chain-link fence at the edge of the lot. I glance at it, empty. Just the fence swaying. My flashlight catches the asphalt behind me. Nothing. But the feeling. It follows me. A presence I can't see. A weight pressing at the back of my neck. A cold air brushing past my ear. I reach the booth. I lean against the counter, sliding the flashlight under the edge, letting the warm yellow light of the booth wash over me. My pulse slows. My shoulders loosen slightly. I tell myself it's just nerves. Just the lot. Just the night. I check my watch again. 2:43 a.m., 20 minutes left on this round. I take a sip of lukewarm coffee, trying to calm my shaking hands. The cameras show nothing. The lot is empty. Perfectly empty. My reflection in the booth window looks back at me, pale in the fluorescent glow. I run a hand through my hair, trying to shake the unease. But deep down, I know something's watching. Not from the cameras, not from the lamps, but from somewhere in the black expanse beyond the light, something waiting, patient, unseen. I tell myself one more time, it's fine. Everything is fine. This is my job. This is my life. Just another night. But even as I pat the counter, my stomach tight, my mind whispers the same thing over and over. Out there, something moves. Something waits. And tonight I'm the only one in the empty lot. I shouldn't have stayed out so long. But once you start a patrol, it's hard to stop halfway. The booth feels farther behind me now, a small square of safety swallowed by the black expanse. I tell myself it's just the night playing tricks, that my eyes are straining in the darkness, but I can't shake the feeling that something is watching, moving just out of sight. It starts subtly. At first, I think it's a reflection. One of the cars catching the light from a lamp and then fading. But then I see it again, a faint glow in the distance like headlights. I freeze. My flashlight hovers over the asphalt as I stare. The glow is small, distant, almost hesitant. And then it's gone. My heart jumps. I take a cautious step forward. The glow reappears closer this time, but in the wrong place. The cars in that row shouldn't be moving, shouldn't have anyone inside them. Yet the light moves along the asphalt as if carried by a ghost driver. I swallow hard. My flashlight shakes in my grip, and for a moment I wonder if I'm imagining it. The glow vanishes again. And then it comes back, brighter, weaving between the parked cars, flickering like it's unsure it even belongs here. I call out, my voice small and uncertain. Hello? Anyone there? Nothing. Silence, thick and suffocating. The lot stretches endlessly. Every row of cars lined like graves, every shadow a possible threat. I walk toward the moving light, trying to understand what I'm seeing. My boots scrape the pavement loudly in the quiet. The light flickers again and vanishes behind a cluster of SUVs. I round the corner. Nothing. Every car is perfectly still, windows dark, doors locked. I blink and the light appears again, just past a sedan on the far side. It's closer than before. I stop, my chest tight. The headlights aren't steady. They wobble slightly, as if the car itself is breathing. I take another step forward, slow, deliberate. Then it moves again. Not in a straight line, but sliding, gliding across the asphalt like it's not bound by tires or physics. My stomach churns. I tell myself I'm losing it. But my mind keeps screaming that what I'm seeing is impossible. I swing my flashlight over the cars. Each one is parked normally, empty. No engine lights, no key in the ignition, no sign that anyone is inside. Yet the glow keeps appearing, moving with a purpose that feels directed at me, like it's trying to draw me somewhere. I feel the hair on my arms stand up. A distant sound, tires rolling softly, rubber against asphalt, makes me jerk my head. I catch a flicker of movement in the corner of my eye. A car, white, moving slowly, gliding past an empty row. No driver, no windows fogged from heat. Just movement. I blink. It's gone. I spin my flashlight around. Still nothing. I start walking faster, trying to keep up, but the lot is bigger than I remember. Every time I look away, the lights vanish, only to reappear somewhere else, somewhere they shouldn't be. It's like the lot itself is alive, rearranging itself while I blink. Panic curls around my chest. I tell myself to breathe, to focus, but it's difficult when the very ground seems to shift under your eyes. I reach the center of the lot. The glow appears again, just past a row of dark SUVs. This time it lingers, pulsing slightly, hesitant. My fingers tighten around the flashlight. I take a step forward, then another. And the glow moves again just as I approach, retreating as if it knows I'm following. I call out again, voice trembling. Hey! Stop! Who's there? The night swallows my words. My heartbeat hammers in my ears. The lamps above me flicker. One sputters and dies, plunging a row of cars into darkness. The glow appears in that very row, brighter than before, almost teasing me, almost daring me to step closer. I force my legs to move. Every instinct tells me to run back to the booth, but curiosity claws at me. I have to know what's causing this. I round the corner, flashlight swinging wildly, and nothing. The lot is empty. Not a single car moves, not a single light shines. Just the empty asphalt, stretching farther than I could have imagined. Then I hear it, a low, almost imperceptible hum. It rises and falls, blending with the faint flicker of the remaining lamps. My flashlight shakes as I lift it, scanning every car. The hum intensifies slightly, like the lot itself is aware of me, aware of my movement, aware that I shouldn't be here. I freeze. In the beam of my flashlight, a sedan's headlights flicker. Just a brief flash, and then the car is dark again. I take a cautious step forward. Another flash, this time from a different car. I spin, heart racing, trying to follow the movement. It's everywhere and nowhere at once. The lights flicker in sequences I can't predict. Sometimes close, sometimes impossibly far, always moving, never settling. The wind picks up. The faint hum mixes with the soft whistle of air through the empty lot. The lights continue to flicker, teasing me, teasing my sanity. I start talking to myself, a low mutter. It's just a trick. It's just reflections. Just faulty bulbs. But the pattern of the lights doesn't make sense. Reflections don't move like this. Bulbs don't flicker in patterns designed to torment someone. I glance at the camera feed on my belt. The monitors show still images of the lot. Not a single moving car. Not a single flickering light. My stomach twists. I check again. Same thing. My eyes dart back to the asphalt. The glow pulses again, now closer, weaving around the empty rows, brushing against the edge of my flashlight beam. I stumble backward, nearly tripping over a concrete divider. My heart races. The lights vanish entirely. The lot returns to its normal, empty quiet, but it doesn't feel empty. It feels expectant, waiting. My legs shake. I try to reason it out. Could it be someone playing a prank? A car driving through the lot without lights? Impossible. The gates are locked. The lot is supposed to be secure. I take a deep breath, trying to regain control. My flashlight sweeps across the lot one last time. Every car sits silently still, perfectly ordinary. My pulse slows slightly, but the uneasy feeling lingers. Something isn't right. Something impossible is happening, and I can't explain it. I turn back toward the booth. I want to convince myself it's over, that what I saw was just fatigue, just nerves. But as I take my first step, I see a pair of headlights in the distance, stationary, bright, glaring directly at me. I freeze. They don't move, don't flicker, just stare unwavering. My voice catches in my throat. I lift my flashlight, shaking. The beam doesn't touch the source, and then as quickly as they appeared, the lights vanish. The lot is empty again. My legs betray me, and I collapse onto the asphalt for a moment, gulping air, trying to make sense of what I just saw. I tell myself it's over. I have to tell myself it's over. But deep down, I know it isn't. The lot isn't what it seems. The lights aren't what they seem. Something is here, moving, watching, playing a game I don't understand. I force myself to stand. The path back to the booth stretches endlessly in front of me. Every shadow seems longer, every row of cars darker. I walk slowly, boots scraping against asphalt, ears straining for any sound. And in the silence between the flickers, I hear it again. A faint hum, rising and falling, closer now, like it's breathing around me. I don't know how much longer I can keep going. My flashlight is steady, but my hands shake. My mind races with the impossible. The lot is empty. The lights are impossible, and yet I can't stop feeling that something is moving just beyond my vision, just beyond my understanding. I finally reach the booth. My chest heaving, I slide the door closed behind me. The small square of safety feels like a fragile bubble against the endless darkness outside. I check the monitors again. Empty, silent, perfectly still. I slump into the chair, gripping the edge of the counter. My eyes keep flicking to the lot, to the dark expanse outside. I tell myself one last time that it's over, that the lights were just a trick of my eyes. But the unease doesn't fade. Something is out there, and I can feel it. Watching, waiting, flickering just out of reach. I've learned not to trust the lot at night. Not really. Even when it seems quiet, even when the cameras show nothing, there's always something just beyond sight, just beyond reason. Tonight, the fog rolls in thick and fast, settling over the asphalt like a living thing. It clings to my boots, curls around the cars, smothers the light from the lamps. The world shrinks until I feel like I'm walking inside a cloud of white, a pale, endless mist. I can barely see the next row of cars. The edges of the lot disappear. The familiar lines of asphalt vanish. I keep my flashlight high, its beam cutting through the fog in a narrow slice, but even that light feels weak. swallowed by the whiteness. Every step I take echoes against the unseen, muffled by the fog, and the sound is oddly loud, like the lot is holding its breath. Then I hear it. A single step behind me. Just one! My pulse jumps. I freeze. The fog swirls, and my breath comes out in harsh puffs, visible and fleeting in the cold air. I tell myself it's probably my own footstep bouncing strangely. I take another cautious step forward. And there it is again, soft, deliberate, following. I stop and listen. The lot is otherwise silent. Only the hum of the distant lamps and the wind whispering through the empty spaces. The step behind me doesn't change. It matches my pace, almost mocking me. I swing my flashlight behind me. Nothing. Just thick, rolling fog. The asphalt beneath my feet. The faint outlines of cars swallowed in white. I start walking faster, and the footsteps do too. My heart is hammering, throat dry. I call out, voice trembling, "Who's there?" My words disappear into the mist. No answer. Just the footsteps, keeping pace, just behind me, unseen. I glance back over my shoulder. The fog ripples, and for a brief second, I think I see a shadow. A figure standing between the rows. But when I blink, it's gone. I keep moving. My flashlight sweeps across the shapes of the cars. They're there, or maybe they're not. The fog makes them ghostly, abstract. Some shapes seem to shift slightly when I'm not looking directly at them. I tell myself it's my imagination. It has to be. But the footsteps continue, patient, relentless. The fog thickens, curling around the edges of my jacket, creeping up my sleeves, chilling me to the bone. Every row I pass seems longer than it should be. The familiar layout of the lot disappears in the white haze. I can no longer see the booth behind me, no matter how hard I turn my head. I start to feel unmoored, like I'm not walking on asphalt anymore, but suspended in some endless void. Then I hear a whisper, faint, almost drowned by the fog, like air moving over teeth. My flashlight shakes. "Hello?" I whisper, voice cracking. Silence. But the footsteps behind me continue. Always one step behind, never accelerating, never retreating. I try to rationalize. Maybe someone followed me from the gate. Maybe there's a trespasser hiding in the fog. But that thought doesn't hold. The gates are locked. The lot is supposed to be secure. My mind searches for logic, for any explanation. None comes. I glance at the headlights of a parked sedan through the fog. For a moment, I swear the glass fogs over from someone's breath inside. My stomach twists. I lift the flashlight higher. Nothing moves. The fog swirls again. Shapes twist in impossible ways. A row of SUVs seems to bend, as if leaning toward me, waiting. I start to run. My boots pound against the asphalt, splashing over puddles left from an earlier rain. The footsteps behind me keep pace, deliberate, echoing unnaturally in the mist. I glance back. No one. But the sound doesn't lie. I try to scream, but my voice is swallowed. My chest feels tight, lungs burning. I round a corner and slam into a car. My flashlight skids across the wet asphalt. For a moment, I'm blinded. The fog swirls, thick as smoke. When I grab the flashlight again, I think I see a figure, tall, dark, featureless, standing just beyond the light. I freeze. It doesn't move, but I can feel its attention, a weight pressing through the fog, through the damp air, into my chest. I stumble backward. The figure doesn't advance, but the fog shifts, like it's breathing with it. My heartbeat drags in my ears. Every instinct screams to run, to get back to the booth, to anywhere but here. My legs move, slow at first, then faster. The footsteps accelerate too, keeping pace perfectly, impossibly. I reach an intersection of rows. The fog thickens even more, white walls closing in. I swing my flashlight wildly, catching glimpses of empty cars, of asphalt that seems to stretch forever. Nothing moves. Nothing breathes. But the footsteps. Always behind, always measured, I call out again, voice barely more than a whisper. "Please, just leave me alone." My words vanish into the mist. And then I hear it, a second set of steps, lighter, faster, echoing differently. I freeze. Two? There's two of them now. Or is my mind fracturing? I whirl my flashlight around. Shapes shift in the fog. One shadow seems closer than before, then farther, then gone entirely. Another drifts along a row of sedans, tall and thin, featureless. My chest tightens. The asphalt seems endless. The lot has become a labyrinth, twisting and shifting under the fog's weight. I try to remember the layout, the paths I've taken, the familiar rows. But nothing aligns. I pass a row I swear wasn't there before, a sedan that shouldn't be in this place, doors slightly ajar. The fog swirls around it like water, pressing against my legs. I tell myself it's just stress, exhaustion, the night playing tricks. But the footsteps are real. I break into a run. My boots skid over wet asphalt. The flashlight swings violently, catching cars in the periphery of the fog. Shapes bend toward me, impossible angles, like the lot itself is alive, reshaping, stretching, elongating. I hear whispering now, faint, almost inside my skull. My mind screams at me to stop, to breathe, but I can't. The footsteps multiply. Each row I pass brings another set, echoing differently, some slow, some fast. I can feel them circling me. My vision narrows to the beam of the flashlight, and even that feels inadequate. The fog is dense, thick, suffocating. I reach a row of SUVs and slam against one, sliding on wet asphalt. The flashlight spins, catching only fog, only impossible shapes. I collapse to my knees. My breaths come in harsh gasps. The footsteps circle me. I can hear the hum of the lamps above, distorted, merging with the whispers, with the fog itself. I can't see the booth, can't see anything familiar. I am lost inside the lot, inside the fog, inside my own fear. I lift the flashlight one last time. Shapes twist and bend before me. A shadow moves closer, featureless, waiting. And I know somehow, it knows I can see it, even if I can't fully see it. The fog pulses around me, thick and wet, like I'm submerged in white water. The steps behind me, everywhere, growing closer, closer. I don't know how long I stay like that, trembling on my knees, flashlight shaking. Time stretches. The lot twists and shifts. The fog flows like water. And the footsteps never stop. They're not chasing me. They're enclosing me, surrounding me, a cage made of sound and mist. I try to scream again. My voice is drowned. My flashlight flickers. My legs give out. I sink lower into the asphalt, wet and cold, fog curling around my fingers. The weight presses down on me, pressing in from every direction. I can't move. I can't see. I can't breathe. And then I hear it clearly, close now, right next to my ear. A slow, deliberate step and a whisper I can't understand. My heart hammers, every instinct screaming to run, to fight, to wake from this nightmare. But the fog doesn't let me. It has me. It swallows everything familiar. I close my eyes, chest heaving, trying to steady my shaking hands. When I open them again, the fog is thicker. The shadows twist more sharply. The footsteps continue. I'm not walking anymore. I'm floating, suspended, trapped in the whiteness that has no end. I whisper to myself, voice trembling, almost pleading. Please, let me find the booth. Please. My words vanish into the fog. My legs ache. My flashlight is a weak pulse in the thick white, barely reaching the nearest car. The footsteps are all around me now, endless, unrelenting, patient. I try to stand. I stumble. The fog swirls, catching at my jacket, my hair, my skin. I feel cold pressing into my bones, not from the air, but from the lot itself. Pressing, waiting, patient. I take one step forward, another. The footsteps match me, echoing my every movement, but never revealing their source. I glance toward where I think the booth is. I can't see it. I don't know if it's there. I don't know where I am. The lot has changed. The fog has changed it. And I know deep down that the footsteps are leading me somewhere, or keeping me from leaving. I start moving forward, hands outstretched, trying to feel the asphalt under my feet. Every step is an eternity. The fog pulses around me, the whispers rise, the footsteps circle, and I understand with a deep, gutting certainty that I am no longer patrolling the lot. The lot is patrolling me, I keep walking. Or maybe I'm running. I can't tell anymore. The fog clings to me like a second skin, thick and wet, pressing against my lungs, against my eyes, against my mind. The lot stretches endlessly in all directions. Every row of cars seems familiar, then shifts when I look away. The booths, the gates, the lamps, they all disappear into white nothingness. leaving only the asphalt and the fog and the sound of my own desperate heartbeat. I try to find the edge of the lot, any edge, but every turn I take leads me deeper inside, not out. The exits I memorized, the paths I walked 1,000 times, they're gone, vanished, replaced by endless rows of cars and thick, oppressive mist. My chest tightens. The panic rises, curling like a living thing in my stomach. I can't think straight, I call out, voice shaking. Hello? Is anyone there? Security, staff? Please? My words vanish into the fog. No answer. Only the sound of my boots scraping wet asphalt. But it's different now. Echoing, overlapping. Like there's more than one person walking behind me. Following, but I can't see anyone. I start running, reckless, stumbling over curbs and puddles, flashlight swinging wildly. The rows of cars stretch farther than they should. They twist at impossible angles, bending and leaning as if the lot itself is reshaping, keeping me inside. I glance back. The booth, the gates, the fences, all vanished. There's no way out. I'm trapped. I round a corner and the fog thickens. I can barely see the next row of cars. And then I see it, or think I see it, a row that wasn't there before. The cars are older, rusted, doors ajar, headlights smashed. The asphalt beneath them is cracked, weeds growing through. It shouldn't exist. This lot is maintained, checked nightly. Yet here it is, like a snapshot from some older, forgotten version of the lot. I swallow hard. My flashlight flickers, casting jagged shadows that stretch across the asphalt. The fog swirls around the cars, curling into shapes that almost look human. I tell myself it's imagination, but my instincts scream that it's real, that something is out there, watching, guiding me deeper into this maze. I keep moving. Every step forward feels heavier, as if the asphalt itself resists me. The wind rises, carrying faint echoes of footsteps, distant whispers, laughter, or maybe screams. I can't tell. My flashlight catches fleeting shapes between the fog. A figure disappearing behind a row of sedans. Another leaning from the darkness near a lamppost, always gone when I focus. I try to retrace my path, back toward where I thought the booth should be. But the rows twist impossibly. Where I expected a straight path, there's a bend that shouldn't exist. Where I expected an empty space, there's a parked car. The lot is changing. It's alive. Or maybe I'm losing my mind. I can't tell anymore. I stumble over a concrete barrier, my flashlight skidding across the asphalt. I hear footsteps again, behind me, circling, echoing unnaturally. I spin, swinging the flashlight. Shapes twist in the fog. Shadows stretch toward me, receding when I try to focus. My chest tightens. Every instinct screams to run, but where can I go? Every direction leads deeper into the lot, deeper into the fog. I try to calm myself. It's fine, I mutter, voice trembling. Just a lot. Fog, exhaustion, nothing else. But the fog thickens, pressing against my eyes, my ears, my skin. The footsteps grow louder, closer, surrounding me now. I can't see them, but I can feel them. Patient, waiting, controlling. I round another corner and stop dead. A row of cars stretches endlessly before me. The asphalt seems to ripple like a mirage, and I realize there's no end, no break in the rows, no exit. I panic. My flashlight shakes. I call out louder this time, voice cracking. Help! Someone! I'm trapped! The words vanish into the fog, swallowed completely. I start running again, faster, reckless. My boots splash through puddles. The fog is thick enough that I can barely see a foot in front of me. The lot has become a labyrinth, impossible to navigate. Every row leads only to more rows. I spin in circles, disoriented. My flashlight beam cuts through the mist, but reveals nothing familiar. The exits, the booth, the gates, they do not exist. A sound rises above everything else. A low, almost metallic hum. The fog vibrates with it. I spin. Shapes twist, bending impossibly through the white. One car, rusted and old, seems to lean forward, almost watching me. Another, its doors swinging slightly, creaks as if alive. I stumble backward, almost falling. My hands claw at the asphalt. I'm suffocating in this mist, drowning in this impossible lot. The footsteps are closer now, circling me, echoing from every direction. I can't tell which way is safe. I can't tell which way leads anywhere at all. Panic tightens around my chest, squeezing, burning. My heart races. I scream, voice raw. Somebody! Please! No answer. Only the fog, thick and white, thick and endless. I try to find landmarks. A lamp, a dumpster, a row of cars. But everything is alien. Every row stretches farther than it should. Every car shifts slightly when I look away. The lot is changing. It's reshaping itself around me. There's no logic, no reason. Only the suffocating, twisting fog and the sound of footsteps circling, waiting. I reach a corner and swing my flashlight wildly. I see the outline of a figure, dark, featureless, standing between two sedans. I freeze. The figure doesn't move, doesn't breathe. But I know it's there. I can feel its presence, pressing into my mind, cold and patient. My chest tightens. My throat closes. I try to speak. Nothing comes out. I stumble backward, heart hammering. The fog swirls around me. The lot twists. The asphalt stretches endlessly in every direction. I fall to my knees. The footsteps grow louder, surrounding me. I can't see anyone, can't see anything, but they're there. Always there. Patient, waiting, controlling. I try to stand. My legs shake. My flashlight wavers. The figure has vanished, but the presence lingers. A weight pressing down on me, shaping the fog around me, twisting the lot into an inescapable cage. I run again, desperate, blindly, boots skidding on wet asphalt. Every row leads only to more rows, more fog, more impossible shapes. I scream again, voice raw and broken. Help, someone! Nothing answers. Only the fog, only the asphalt, only the unending lot. I try to retrace my path. Try to remember the patrol. Try to find the booth, the gate, anything familiar. But it's gone. Everything is gone. I am trapped. The fog presses closer, thick and suffocating. The footsteps surround me. I can't move without hearing them match me, echoing my every step, circling, patient. I feel dizzy, disoriented. Time loses meaning. I am lost in a labyrinth with no walls, no exits, no end. I stumble into a row of old abandoned cars, their doors hanging open, paint peeling, glass cracked. They shouldn't exist here. The asphalt beneath them is broken, weeds sprouting through cracks. I clutch my flashlight, beam trembling. The fog curls around the cars, pressing against my legs. I feel a weight in my chest, in my stomach, in my head. Panic twists every nerve. I try to scream again. My voice is swallowed instantly by the fog. The footsteps circle me, louder now, faster, echoing from every direction. I spin, swinging the flashlight, but the fog shifts impossibly. Shapes bend and twist. The lot has become a living maze, a trap. I understand now I am inside the lot and the lot is inside me. I collapse to the asphalt again. Boots wet, hands shaking, chest heaving. The fog swirls thick and suffocating, curling into shapes that almost look human, almost look like figures waiting for me to move. The footsteps surround me completely now, echoing unnaturally. I can't tell direction, distance, or time, I whisper to myself, voice trembling. I just need to find the booth. I need to get out, just get out. But even as I speak, I know the truth. The booth, the exits, the gates, they do not exist. They have vanished. The lot has swallowed them, swallowed me. And I am trapped in a place that reshapes itself with my fear, with my panic, with my desperation. I lift the flashlight one last time. The fog twists, swirling, dense and cold. The rows of cars stretch endlessly in every direction, bending impossibly, closing off all paths. The footsteps echo around me, omnipresent, patient, unrelenting. I am alone, I am lost, I am trapped. And I know deep down that I will not leave this lot the same as I entered. I don't know how long I've been running, or walking, or stumbling. Time has no meaning here anymore. The fog is everywhere, thick and white, curling around my legs, pressing against my chest, filling my lungs. Every row of cars stretches endlessly. Every corner, every turn, every familiar landmark has vanished. The lot isn't a place anymore. It's a living thing, and I am inside it. I try to remember the booth, the gates, the exits. But the memory slips through my mind like smoke. Every path I take folds back on itself. The asphalt stretches impossibly, bending and twisting. The cars shift in the fog, sometimes old, sometimes new, sometimes burned-out shells of vehicles I've never seen before. The lot has become a maze of mirrors, reflecting fear, reshaping reality. I call out, voice raw, broken. "Somebody help me!" My words are swallowed immediately. The fog absorbs them, twisting them into something cold and unrecognizable. I hear a faint echo of my voice, but it doesn't sound like me. It's slower, deeper, mocking. Panic coils around me like a living thing. I stumble over a curb, my flashlight skidding across the asphalt. I catch it just in time, swinging the beam wildly. Shadows twist and stretch impossibly in the fog. I think I see shapes moving among the rows, tall, thin, faceless. I freeze. The shapes vanish when I focus on them. My chest tightens. My stomach knots. Every instinct screams to run. But where can I go? Every direction leads only deeper into the lot, deeper into the fog. Every step is matched by a phantom weight behind me, circling me, echoing me. I lift my flashlight, hands trembling. The beam cuts through the white mist, illuminating rows of cars that stretch farther than they should, bending in ways that are impossible. I realize, with a cold, sinking certainty, that the lot isn't just surrounding me, it's inside me. Every step I take, every breath I draw, the fog and asphalt and shifting cars are rewriting the world around me. I reach out, touching a car's hood. The metal feels wrong, soft, almost like flesh, cold but alive. I jerk my hand back. I stumble forward, blinded by panic. The footsteps behind me grow louder, echoing from every direction, overlapping, impossible to locate. I spin, flashlight swinging. The fog twists and thickens. I catch glimpses of myself, or what looks like myself, between the cars. Pale, distorted, stretching into impossible shapes. And then it vanishes when I try to focus. I call out again, voice barely more than a whisper. "Please, I need to get out!" The words vanish instantly. A low hum rises in the fog, vibrating through the asphalt beneath my boots, through my bones, through my mind. The lot is alive. The lot is patient. The lot is waiting. I fall to my knees. The asphalt beneath me is wet, slick, unnatural. The cars loom above me like silent sentinels. I lift the flashlight weakly. Shadows twist. Shapes bend. The fog presses in from every direction. And then I see it, my own outline, faint and shimmering like a reflection in the mist just a few feet ahead. I freeze. It moves. Or maybe I move. I can't tell. The outline mimics my gestures, slows when I slow, steps when I step. I take a step forward. It takes a step forward. I turn my flashlight toward it and it flickers, dissolving into the fog. My chest tightens. My hands shake uncontrollably. I realize I am no longer alone. Not alone in the sense of another person, but in the sense that the lot itself has me. Shapes twist around me, footsteps echo endlessly, shadows bend impossibly. I am a presence in the fog, a new shape among the rows. I am becoming part of the lot. I try to scream, but nothing comes out. My voice has been swallowed, absorbed. I try to run, but my legs feel heavier, as if the asphalt itself resists me. Every step forward is a struggle, every movement a battle. The fog curls tighter, pressing into my skin, filling my lungs, saturating my mind with white emptiness. I lift the flashlight again. The rows stretch endlessly. I catch glimpses of my own outline again, faint, wavering, a shadow in the mist. It pulses with the rhythm of my heartbeat, and I realize with terror that I am not controlling it. It is controlling me. The lot has me. I am trapped inside it, body and mind, every fiber of my being absorbed. I stumble forward, gasping, reaching for the booth, for any sign of safety. But the booth, the gates, the exits, they do not exist. Every landmark is gone. The lot stretches endlessly, bending, twisting, impossible. The asphalt beneath my boots feels alive, pulsing with a rhythm that matches my own heartbeat. My own heartbeat. I fall forward onto the asphalt, hands trembling, forehead pressed against the cold, wet surface. The fog curls around me, swirling, pressing into my ears, filling my mind. The footsteps echo closer. They are everywhere. They are me. They are the lot. I lift my flashlight one last time. The beam catches a row of cars, twisted, old, new, broken, shifting, and then myself. Or what is left of me. My outline flickers in the mist, faint, almost transparent. My fingers twitch. My breath comes in short, ragged gasps, and I realize that I am disappearing, becoming something else. The footsteps, The fog, the asphalt, the cars, they pulse around me, and I feel my body dissolving into the mist, my outline stretching and fading. I am no longer separate from the lot. I am part of it now, a faint, trembling presence in the endless white, a shadow among the rows, a whisper in the fog. Time ceases to exist. There is no booth. No gates, no exits. Only the fog, the asphalt, the cars, and the endless, impossible expanse. My outline flickers, fades, and becomes one with the lot. I am there, and I am gone, both present and invisible, a shape in the mist that was once human. I feel the last remnants of panic drain from me, replaced by a strange, cold calm. I understand now that I will never leave, that the lot has claimed me, reshaped me, absorbed me. I am part of it, patient, waiting, endless. My heartbeat syncs with the pulse of the asphalt. My breathing merges with the fog. I am a whisper, a shadow, a faint outline in the mist. And then finally, there is only the lot. It stretches endlessly, empty to the untrained eye. But if you look closely, you might see a faint shimmer, a trembling outline among the rows, a presence that wasn't there before, waiting, patient, silent, watching. And if you enter that lot at night, if you walk its rows, if you wander its asphalt, you might feel it brushing against you, the cold, the presence, the weight of something that should not exist, something that was once human, something that is now part of the lot. The fog shifts, the rows twist, the asphalt stretches, the cars are still, and somewhere in that endless, impossible expanse I wait.